So this is actually a picture from my balcony at my house. And as you can see, it is dark, but it's also very foggy. And I live in Barara, and this is actually a regular occurrence in Barara. And so I actually love it because of the fact that it really feels like I'm enveloped as well. And so, but there was a verse that I came across one day, and it's Exodus 13, 20 and 21. And part of the verses there says, "By day the Lord went ahead of them in a pillar of cloud to guide them on their way." And as I was looking at, or as I was contemplating those verses with where I currently live, I sort of thought about the fact that, is my screen doing? I sort of thought about the fact that there is some mystery that comes with being enveloped in cloud. And so this is the morning after, the night before, and this is what it actually looks like. I can't even see, like my cul-de-sac is actually not, or the street is not very long, and I can't even see the house at the end of the street, which is usually very easy to see. And so this is, it just is quite exciting every morning, every time this actually happens at our place. This is actually a view of a walking track around my house. And I can't take credit for the next photo, but there is a point in my journey where around the track where I can look down into the Barara Gorge, and often this is what I see. It's the clouds sitting way lower in the valley than where I am. So we're standing above in the sunshine, and what is actually cool is every time I see that, I actually think of Crosslands, because Crosslands from as the crow flies is pretty much across the gorge. And so so as it burns off, the cloud drops lower, and then it obviously dissipates over the course of the day. But coming back to Scripture, there is, although throughout Scripture, clouds are more than just the weather. And we certainly have seen that from Exodus 13. They are a symbol of God's nearness. In the wilderness, the Israelites followed a pillar of cloud by day, and it was visible. It was a visible sign that God was with them and that he was leading them step by step. When Moses met with God on Mount Sinai, a thick cloud descended over the mountain. And later the clouds filled the temple when Solomon dedicated the temple for the first time as well. And these moments remind us that God often reveals himself in the mystery, not always with full clarity, but always with his presence. And even in the New Testament, it talks about the fact that a cloud enveloped Jesus through the transformation process, and that Jesus then ascended on a cloud, promising to return the same way in Revelation 1 verse 7. And so sometimes life feels cloudy, and sometimes particularly your life with ACAS, particularly early on, may feel a little bit cloudy as well and not quite so clear. And there could be some uncertainty and even a little bit of darkness feeling when life feels a little bit cloudy. But just like the Scripture talks about, the cloud can actually be as significant as a sign of God's presence as well, and not his absence. When we can't necessarily see the road ahead, we can trust that God is still leading through all of this. And so this is some rhetorical questions. So I'd like you to ask yourself, am I willing to follow where the path leads, even if it is hidden by a cloud? Do I trust God? Do I trust that God is present even when I can't see him so clearly? And so on that note, as we get into hoping that the mystery of ACAS is revealed a little bit, and that some of the fogginess burns off, as it does in Barara with the clouds, I do hope that you are able to see God's presence through what you do, and it's a significant role that you do in your church as well. So let's just open with a word of prayer. Lord Jesus, we just thank you so much for the opportunity of coming together today to learn a little bit more about ACAS and some of the nuances with the system as well. Jesus, I just thank you so much for the dedication of these amazing people who represent their churches and do an amazing job to be the stewards of the funds of the church. And so, Lord, we just thank you so much for them and give them wisdom and guidance as they work in their role at church there. But Lord, we just ask that you be with us now. We thank you for your presence. We thank you for the reminder that the clouds are a sign of your promise and of presence. And Lord, help us to trust you, even that when we can't necessarily see the full picture. Lead each one of us step by step and remind us that you are always near, even in some of the mystery. And Lord, today, as we hopefully unlock some of the mystery of ACAS, may we be able to glorify you through the work that we do in your local church. In your name we pray. Amen.
Well, on my way here this morning across Castle Hill Road, I could see just the tops of the buildings at Parramatta. So to the point made this morning about the fog, it looked very nice. If you were in Parramatta, it would have been all foggy underneath, but looked very good. But we're looking at some of the timelines, which hopefully are on one of the screens here, so that we know what's expected, I guess, of us as treasurers on a monthly basis. And so we will, bingo, there we go. Thank you. And so the first, the first requirement is to make sure we can close month end by the 15th day of the following month. That's our target, because at the conference level, we need to then report up to the union, etc. as well. So we need to do a few things after that. So the first target is to make sure that we can close the month by the 15th of the following month, the 15th day. GST. Ideally, when you close a particular month, then you would have uploaded all of your invoices to your expenses as well. So that's a perfect time as well to send GSU Finance at advance.org.au an email regarding GST, so that we can make sure that we claim the GST for you for that particular month as well. So it's a good idea to do the same, both of them at the same time. When you close a particular month in ACAS, that's when there is a transfer of funds from the local account into the conference account, which is the transfer of tithes and non-local offerings across to the conference. And so when that comes through, that is dated the 3rd, so day 3 of the following month. So we are now in May. And so when we close our May accounts, so whenever that is, if you're able to do it by the 5th or the 10th, the date on the transfer to the conference will be the 3rd. So just something to keep in mind. But yeah, so when we close, that's when the transfers to the conference happens. And that ensures that you then have a good feel for what funds you have locally on hand as well, because you're not holding conference funds, it's just local church funds. CMF statements are ready by approximately the 4th day of the following month, depending on when the weekend falls. Sometimes it's the 5th or even the 6th, if it's depending on how the days go. And so the CMF statement is something that we'll touch on a little later, because we need that when it comes to the closing of the month and the CMF bank reconciliation. So it's very, very important about that. So just some of the timelines. I guess the key timeline there is indeed the 15th, so that we can close our books by the 15th of the next month. All right, so to start with, I think we'll go through receipts. And so when you're all logged into ACAS, you'll notice there is a particular format. All right, we'll do that in a moment. I guess one thing that I've found, because I'm a local treasurer as well, one thing I've found is doing a few activities each week is far easier for me as a treasurer than trying to save them all up and do one big hit once in the month. And so I put myself into a routine whereby I spend no more than half an hour, maybe it's 10 minutes, depending on how things go, each week. Because if I find that if I do that, I can easily find, 15, 30 minutes in a week, but it's hard to find 2 hours in a block, potentially, if I'm trying to catch up for the 4 weeks. And so my encouragement to you is to work on a weekly system and find a system that works for you. And so whether that be Sabbath afternoon or Sunday or Monday night or whatever works. So once the count has been done, and then we make sure that the funds are in the bank on the Monday, to find a routine where, in order to do the ACAS work, which is what we'll go through today, find a time that works for you. And so I find that, if you create a weekly schedule for yourself or a weekly slot, it makes it a lot easier. And so, something to keep in mind. Okay. All right. Well, now we will get into receipts.
Hello, everyone. Morning. I will start to do the receipts with you guys. I will use my training section. I won't use any church. So if you want to use your training as well, just use this address here, ACAS Training at Adventist.technology. So this is an environment that you can use to just play around. If you don't want to mess with your accounts or receipts, you can use this one. If you are not sure as well how it will work in the real system, you can use this one. So I will log in. Let me ACAS-training. Can you see? Yeah, you have to put this address here on your computer. ACAS. Let me make it bigger. Oh, I can't make it bigger. In the training menu, you can see as well. What page?
It's on page 4.
Page 4.
So do you use your normal login?
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same login.
Okay.
Oh, good. Can I start? So you have to go to income, receipt entry, and you have to enter all receipts for the Sabbath. Like David said, it's much easier and faster if you do it weekly. So usually nowadays we don't use much cash anymore. Yeah? If you can encourage your church to use e-giving instead of cash, is save a lot of your time, and it's gonna be much easier for you guys. So you're always gonna check the month you are doing. In this case, we do in May. The date on the receipt should be the date of the Sabbath. You never use the dates during the week. You're going to put the Sabbath date. So like for May, you have to use the 2nd, 9th, 3rd, 16th, 23rd, and 30. So I will start the first one. The giver, you have to select the person's name. If the person is a new giver, you don't have their name here. You just click on plus, and here you can put the person's name, give a name and email. If you put the email here, it's going to be much easier for you guys. You don't need to print and send and give up a hard copy. they will receive in the email when you print all receipts. It's going automatically, so you don't have to do anything. So it's much easier if the person has an email. Just click and save, and you will see the person's name here. So for the envelopes with names, you just select the person's name. In the amount received, you have to put the total of the envelope. You don't need to put in the details if you don't want. The method payment, if it's tithes and offerings, you're going to use cash. If you are entered any receipt for, like if you rent a church for a wedding, or you rent a church for another church, or you have received any cash, any money for a payment, but it's not tithes and offerings, it's for other things. If they pay through the for the cash, you can change here as well for credit or debit card if you give the person the account details. No, this is a receipt, so you don't need to have any information from the person's credit card in the receipt section. This is just only for expense. Yes. He asked if you pay someone, you need to put the card details, the account details, but on receipt you don't have to put any information about the person's card or account. Just the payment method. And then you're going to select the accounts that's showing the envelope. The person, if she put it, he put it tithe, so you just need to type tithe and put the amount here for the tithes. To be fast, just click and tap, 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 and we'll open a new row. And so you have to select if there's any offering that it's in the envelope as well. You just need to select it, and you see the amount if it's correct or not, or what is showing in the envelope. Just tap, tap, or just click in a new row as well. It's another option. Like. Yeah, here is when you have the envelope, you know the persons. It's just this one is not for lose money in the bag. Yeah, this is just one individual. This is what you see in the envelope. And then you have to save it. Save, and if you just click and save, a new date will appear here. So if you want to keep the period and the date, you have to click and save and new. So it's clear, I can enter a new one. For if you don't have, if the person's name is not in the envelope, but you have one envelope with cash and all itemized and offerings or tithes, you can select as well anonymous. You can have more than one, so you have 4 envelopes anonymous. You can put anonymous again, again, again. So you have to put the total here and select what is in the person's put in the envelope. Check the date, the period it's right. Just click and save and new. What I forgot to tell you guys, it's really good if you can scan the envelope, and you can select here and attach the scan of the envelope, so you don't need to save the actual envelope if you don't want, if you have the copy. So some churches, they have, let me show you here one church. I know the treasurer. Save the envelopes. So if I go to receipt search and see what she have entered on ACAS, you can see she attached all envelopes here. So when we have the auditing, you won't have a lot of questions because we can see everything on ACAS. You can use if you don't have a printer, you can use your phone. There's an app that calls David. What is the app you use for scan? The name?
Even just photo.
Yeah, you can use just a photo, or you can scan as well. You just put the photo scan. Yeah, could be or an app, or you can just take a photo as well.
Cool, photo scan.
Yes.
What if you attach for the deacon entry?
For the deacon, you can attach the offering weekly book. What do you have there? How to attach? You just go to the bottom of the page, like this is the receipt. To attach the envelope, just go to the bottom, and you can select here file, and you can just click here, and it's going to be saved. Yeah. This is not the invoice is not an envelope, but this is the way you do. Any questions?
You have to do that for every single envelope as an individual upload.
Yes, she's asking if you need to do for every individual envelope. If you don't wanna keep the envelope, you can just do for all of them, and you don't need to keep the envelope.
But scan each one individually.
Yes, you need to scan individually. Mm-hmm.
So with the loose offering, would you put that under anonymous?
No, for loose money in the loose cash, you're gonna use Deacon. Yes, let me show you guys.
But if someone put in a tithe anonymously.
Yes, see if the envelope said this is tithe, you're gonna put in tithe. For the loose money in the bag, you're gonna select Deacon. So you go to receipt entry, select Deacon, and here you're gonna put the total amount. No, yeah, if not, and they lose money, you need to scan the weekly offering book because you don't have a receipt for this. Yes. Yeah, you put in a sheet, and you can take a picture and save it as well. Every week we have a different offering. Most of the Sabbaths is from local budget, but we have another Sabbath that you have to select the correct offering. If you are not sure which one is, you can go to report. And we have one that calls offering of the week. Reports. Yes. Offering of the week. Weekly church offering. Yes. So here you can, I wanna see bigger. I think in your computer you can see bigger. You don't need to, you can just print and see which Sabbath, which offering is for the Sabbath.
Going back to receipt entry, if you've also got both a CMF account and a local account, how do you identify?
Yeah, if you have more than one account, not just the CMF account, in this process you don't need to change anything. You just will change the bank when you go to bank deposit entry. But for this stage, it's the same process.
Yeah, because we get money that goes direct into our local account.
If the money is going to the local bank account, the process is the same at this stage. No, you don't. No, you don't change this one.
There's a second step later.
Is this yes?
For the weekly offering,
Uh-huh.
is that also published on the conference calendar?
Yes, we have the calendar that we provide for you guys. I think I sent to you guys in the beginning of the year. Or if you don't have, you can have a look in the report and see what is the offering of the week. Or you can search on Google as well. Sometimes you can find that as well. Yeah, if you go to the website, the Sydney Finance Treasurer environment, you can find as well. After you put all receipts on the receipt entry, someone has any question about the receipt entry? Once you have entered all receipts, you have to check. You have to print all of them. Otherwise, it won't appear in your reconciliation or in your bank deposit entry. So to check what you have entered, you just go to the receipt search. If you put the period, this one is because April is still open, but this receipt I have done was in May. So if you click and search, you can see all receipts sitting on the tab to show what they have entered for this month. If you want to check what you have entered, you go to Source and click in ACAS. You can search and you see what you already have entered. But you can see here the status. Some of them is not printed yet, and we have one email already. If you want to see which one is not printed yet, you just click in Unsent Only, search again, and I will see the ones I just done. It's here. You can, at this stage, you can check if the total is matching with the total of your weekly counting sheet as well, to see if it's matching. Because this amount here needs to appear in the bank statement. So just double check if the amount is correct. If you have to do any changes, you can just, if you didn't print it yet, you can go again, just double click, and you can do any amendment you want to do. You can do it here. And you just save it again. You can also attach the envelope later. If you need, you forgot, or something you want, you will do it later. You can just go, if you already received, just go and you can select, you can attach as well the envelope, photo or scan. Once you have entered all receipts for the Sabbath, just click in email in print. So if the person has the email here, they will receive the email when we click and send an X. Otherwise, you have to print the receipt and give a copy to them in the next Sabbath. So here is the receipts, and you have to print. So it's much easier if you put the person's email, so you don't have to do anything after that. Any questions? All good? If I have entered a receipt and I printed but it's wrong, and I put in local budget but actually it's ADRA, you can do a receipt without any amount here, just to change it. So you're going to select the persons you want to change it. You don't have to put any amount here. You just leave 0. You just put, it's not local, it's ADRA. It's $10. Minus $10. Tap, tap, tap. Open a new one. And you select the ADRA. Maybe the period's not right. Yeah. Save a new. So you just move the from local budget for ADRA if you need to do any amendment. Questions? No? If you have done you already entered the bank deposit entry, and you put the money. Someone deposit the money for you, the cash, and when you are doing the reconciliation, it's 5 cents missing. And so I can't match, because the amount needs to be exactly the same amount on the ACAS side and the bank statement. You can also create a negative receipt for the bank adjustment. I don't think we're gonna have this this giver on the environment, but most of the churches have the bank adjustment. If you don't have, just create a new one, like for a new giver. Yes, when you do if you didn't pick up when you are doing and you already put the money in the bank and it's not matching, you just need to create a new receipt to match with the reconciliation. So if it's like minus, you just create a minus 0.05 cents. And you can just put in local budget. Yeah, but it happens a lot of times. I see this happen. Like the sense, if the amounts are not matching with what you're doing, but it's a big amount, it's a red flag to see why it's not matching. It happens every Sabbath. It's 50,000. I don't know. It's like 1,500 missing or something is going on. So we have to check why is not every Sabbath is not matching because it's missing cash. So it's a red flag to check what's going on. So just click and save a new. And you have to print as well. You have to print even the deacons or Sabbath school. You have to print as well, not just the ones you have the names, but all receipts need to be printed. Any question? How to create a new one? If you want to create a new one, in the giver, you have to put the person's name here, name and surname. Yeah, if it's not matching you want to do, you have to create a giver calls bank adjustment. Yes. Probably you just try to find first, because a lot of churches already, I create for some churches when I'm doing the reconciliation for them. So probably already have one giver calls bank adjustment. You need to put in the giver. Just click in the giver, type bank adjustment. If you don't find, you have to create a new one. After you printed all receipts for the Sabbath, you have to do the bank deposit entry. This is where you have to change the accounts if you have more than one bank account. Here, where you have to put if it's like Warunga has events, or if they have a local bank account, or this is the place you have to select the correct bank account. So in this one, I just have one account, so I will just select CMF. And I will select all receipts related to the bank, the deposit I will do or I already have done. So for all the Sabbaths, I will select all of them for like these two. This is only related to the cash. You have to check here if the amount match with the bank deposit you're gonna do. You can select, if you have more than one depositor, you can create a depositor and put the person's name here, but you don't need if you don't want. In the bank deposit entry, the date you will select is going to be the date you went to the bank. It's not the day. It's not the Sabbath. So if the date is the 2nd, yes, need to be the bank. Yeah, because we need to match with the statement of the bank statement. The dates. Oh, good. No problem. We are here to learn. Yeah, you have to select the bank. So the insurance covered. Yes, if you receive something, a cash, because we have one event in the church, it's not in the Sabbath, so you select the date you receive the money.
I'm just thinking, if it's a long weekend, it's Tuesday and go to the bank.
Yes, so you're going to put Tuesday, yes. Yeah, if it's a long weekend, you just need to put the date you go to the bank.
If we put the date in Sabbath,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and normally I'm doing this morning, but I still put the Sabbath date, that's when I do that's when it's collected. So will it take a 4-week day for us to put the money in, say basically on the day that we're going to bank?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm tomorrow, but sometimes it doesn't allow you to do forward date.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was asking if we put, because he put they count the money on Sunday, and he goes to the bank on Tuesday or Monday, which day he needs to select here, yes? So you always will select the day you go to the bank. Yes, they will accept the date you put, yes, need to be.
So I think what's important is that the period, the date is in the same period that you select. So in this case, we're selecting maybe the 24th of May, trying to see it, because we have the May period open. And so we could pick any date if we want to. The ease of having the day that you go to the bank is when we go to the bank reconciliation process, the dates are exactly the same. Now, having said that, if you do put the date of the Sabbath, you will know that you went to the bank a couple of days later. So the date on the bank is different by a couple of days, does not matter. The process of the bank reconciliation is just matching the amounts. And so it might make it easier if the date is the same day that you go to the bank, but it doesn't matter if it's out by a day or two. Yeah, that's fine. Yes.
What happens when the Sabbath finishes on the last Sabbath?
Exactly. Yes.
And the bank.
I was waiting for the question. Exactly. And so, yeah, the question is, what happens when the Sabbath might be the 31st, and you go to the bank the following day, the following week, which is the following month in ACAS? What do you do? And so when we do the receipts will be the date of the Sabbath. And when you do the deposit, ideally the deposit should match the bank statement. And so we'll do, ideally, then the deposit in the following month. So if May 31 was the Sabbath, then we would do the receipts, May 31, dated. But then the bank, this step, we would probably pick the month of June and the 1st or 2nd of June, whatever the Monday would be. Yes. So we can just select the next month in order to then process that. If you really wanted, you could still select May and the Sabbath day. When we get to the bank reconciliation process, it just means that those entries will be a reconciling item on your bank rec. There is no harm or foul in respect to that. So either way will work. It's probably just a little cleaner if you date the following month, the next month, but it's quite okay if you make. Yeah. We changed the period. So to make sure that we print the bank statements in the same month, we can just change the month, the period in ACAS. We can select. So when we hit the drop down from ACAS, there will be future months that are there. So we can just select the next month if we need to. Now, what I do personally, I select the month associated with the Sabbath. Because for me, if I then do the bank deposit on the 31st and it's all in May, it's a reconciling item on the bank rec, that's fine, I don't mind. So me personally, I put everything into May because for me it makes sense and it matches. But if you want it a bit cleaner, then you could select June if you wanted to. Yeah. So, yeah. So you can do either. Like it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Yeah. Sorry, question. Yeah.
Yes, I'm a new appointed treasurer for my church, so I'm
Yes.
getting a grip of how to use the system.
Yes.
Just following on from what Jesus said. The process is receipt entry, print receipts, and then bank deposit entry.
That's correct. And so that's key. So the question is, what are the 3 key steps to record AES income? And the 3 steps are, or 4 steps, counting first. And we need to make sure we're 100% accurate, because when we come to doing receipts, we should then be methodical. So, and we'll touch on it a little later. Our count sheet, we then need to make sure we do a receipt for every entry on that count sheet, as in there is one for Sabbath school, one for main service, one for AY, or so however many offerings you have, and then one for each person associated with an envelope. And so we need to make sure that our receipts exactly match our count, because our count is what's going to the bank. And so if there are any errors there, it's going to cause us issues later on. And so, yeah, vital that we get that part 100% right. So a receipt is receipt entry is just generating the receipt in ACAS. Whereas we need to then notify the people or the givers of that receipt. And so that next step, print search or receipt search, and that's where we activate the print function. That's where we send emails to people, or we could actually, I'd print a PDF, and so you can then print out physically and then cut it up if you need to. And so that's where we physically get the receipt into people's hands, so that or emails, so that they know that we have received the money. But then that does not create an entry that we can match against our bank statement. It's only notifying the giver that they have given something. So that third step, this bank deposit entry step, is then very important, so that we then capture that receipt in our accounting system to then say that is the entry that we can match. And so all 4 figures should be, the totals should be exactly the same in that process. And so our count should equal the total of our receipts, which equals the total then of our prints, whether it be email or PDF, which should equal the bank deposit amount, which we can then marry off against our bank statement when we get to have a look at that. So, Hunty, I have on my screen here an example. And so for the bank deposits, you'll see here an example of what we do with our count sheet there. And we'll touch on it a little later as well. But at the top, we have our offerings. That is the cash received, so whether it be for Sabbath school or for deacons. And then listed down the left, which I've cut off, would be the names of individuals. And then each row represents whether it be tithe or ADRA or local budget or building fund, etc., what people have contributed to in respect to the envelopes. So that gives us a total down the bottom. And so I then have a total of the cash at the top. I have a total for envelopes. I add the two figures together. And so for each of those elements, I do one receipt. I then do the receipt search to then make sure I can then print. So for most people, the church I go to, there is an email address. And so if there is a new person or a new name that I see on an envelope, what do? I create an account in order to generate the receipt, but I try and find that person at church. So it's a good way for us as treasurers to meet new people as well. And so I want to find that person to then ask them, can I get your email address, please? If they have one, so that I can then in future email receipts rather than having to try and print something off each time. So yeah, it's a good way for us to make sure we mingle with people at church as well. We also scan the tithe envelopes as well. And so in the bank deposit entry, you will see there will then be the count sheet to demonstrate how much is actually counted so that it marries to what is being banked. All the details are there, and I actually even have the bank deposit slip there as well. So it's evidence that we went to the bank and that was the amount of money that was deposited. So when it comes to review time, all of the information is there, all online. So yeah, if you're able to scan, then that is a good thing. The general rule is one deposit per week. And so, yes, I can't stress that enough. If you try and hold back funds for 2 or 3 weeks and then do 3 weeks of receipts and 3 weeks of banking, things could get confusing quite quickly. And so, yeah, my strong suggestion is that you bank weekly, and so that those 3 steps, the receipt entry, the receipt search and printing, and the deposits are done on a weekly basis. What happens if you only get through 2 steps? So I do receipts and receipt printing and I forget the 3rd step. Well, yes, you can go back and do it later, yes. But the danger is when you come to do your bank rec, it won't work. And if you don't do the 3 steps together, in week 2, you'll then have a mixture of week 1 receipts and week 2 receipts. And so it's then a lot harder to marry back to the deposit for that 1 week. And so that's why it's always important to go through the 3 steps each week. Otherwise, life becomes confusing. Yeah, that's right. If you are in a church where most people are giving through the e-giving app, so it is electronic, and you only have a low amount of cash, and by low, maybe I mean less than $50, depends on your church, less than $20, then to go to the bank each week with $20 or $50, if we're facing bank fees and things like that, it's not productive to do that. So where there are very low offerings, it's permissible to consolidate them. I would still do the receipt entry and the receipt print on a weekly basis, but we'll then do the deposit maybe once a month. But that's only if there are really low value deposits.
No, I know that's not a lot of money, but isn't our money only insured for 2 days?
Yes, that is. 3 business days. But if it's $20 or $50, then that's probably okay. It's a risk that we will bear as a church. Yes, but if it's a substantial amount, so a few hundred plus, then yes, banking by Wednesday to then make sure we go through those 3 steps on a weekly basis. So we can do what is worth doing as well when you get in your live environment is just doing a search on the bank deposit screen, because this is the second step as part of that process of processing a bank deposit. But just to make sure that you've completed this step, because if we don't complete step 3, then we'll have issues with reconciling the bank. So I think some churches are in that position. So it's worth just having a look through your bank deposit search just to make sure that everything has been taken care of. So Jason, do you want to keep going?
You want to see all deposit banks you have done? Yeah, go to the bank deposit search. I just want.
One way is to use the snippet tool. Oh yes. So yeah, control print screen should help, or at the top left, top right, there is a in the middle of the screen actually, there is an export button as well that we can then export to Excel. Yes. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So the key step, which is what Jason was stepping us through, is to then, in the bank deposit screen, we select each of the receipts that we have created, and that should then total the offering of the week. And then when we save that entry, or save a next, that will then complete that bank process, which then records the bank as just the total. So just the one amount for the total of the offering for that week. Yes. And yes, it's key to then, there is a checkbox at the top left in order to then select all the entries that should relate to the last week. And you'll know whether you have processed the deposit for a particular week because the only entries that appear on that screen will relate to the current week. So if it is blank, then you know you have completed this process. So all the receipts have already been banked. Whereas if you go into this screen and you see entries there, then it means that last step in the process hasn't been completed. So you need to go back and have a look at the receipts to make sure that they match that amount, to see whether you can individually select that line to then hit save, and save will then finish that processing for that line. Great question. What happens if we make an error somewhere along the line and we wish to reverse that process? Yes, so in that same screen, if we go through the search process for bank deposits, we can search usually by the period to narrow it down for us, and that will list our deposits that have been received. We then select the line that we know that there is an issue with, and then you'll see this sort of screen on hand. And so the bottom right-hand corner, there is a reverse button. And so we can hit that in order to reverse. So when something is processed in ACAS, we cannot go and edit that field when it's been saved, but we can reverse it and redo it. And so, yeah, the process even for a receipt, if we enter a receipt incorrectly, we can then go and reverse it and do it again. Or a bank deposit, reverse it and do it again. Yeah.
That's a question. I know, Jessica, you showed us when you enter something wrong in the receipt and you do the minus thing. When do you use the reverse function?
You can use the minus just if you want to change the account, but if you make a mistake, you put it duplicated. So I put it twice. Now I need to delete one. Yeah, you can't delete. You just need to reverse. So you have to find the receipt here, because if there's something outstanding here in the bank deposit entry, maybe you made a mistake and you can't match with the deposit. So maybe you have to reverse this one because you entered twice, or you put one in a wrong amount and entered again with the correct amount, and you have this still sitting in the bank deposit entry. So you go to receipt search. I will select the ACAS to be easier to see the ones I have entered. So I will select the item I want. Just click in reverse. This is if the item is already reconciled or is already entered on bank deposit entry, you can reverse. You need to reverse first the bank deposit entry and then reverse the receipt. So let's see the one I have entered. If I can just reverse this one. If I want to reverse this one, I just click in reverse. This one already reconciled as well. Let me see one is not reconciled. All of them. So if you let me print this one. May.
So maybe one of the reasons why you might do a reversal, if you haven't done the bank deposit for a couple of weeks, and as an example, if there are 10 entries, 5 for week 1, 5 for week 2, you come to do the bank deposit entry and you select 6 because you think, oh, it was 6. Then when you're doing the bank reconciliation, the amount does not equal. And you think, oh, what happened? I go and look back here and I think, oh, hang on, I should have selected 5 and 5, not 6 and 4. Then we can reverse those 2 entries and select 5 and 5 in terms of the receipts. Yeah.
Like this one here, I want to reverse. The one I did with 0 in the amount. I just select the item. Just click in reverse. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. Okay. Details you have to. In this case, what I should because it was the 0. Because it's 0, I can't reverse. So you just need to enter reason why you are reversing. If it's duplicate or wrong amount or something like that, you can also select attach the envelope again if you want to show why you are reversing. Just save it and do what you want.
So the other situation in respect to deposits that you might come across relates to one of these 2 scenarios that you see there on screen. The one on the left, a weekly offering that you know you've gone to the bank and you've deposited $1,000, but it's not appearing on your CMF statement. That may occur because the bank has not typed in your reference number, or they've slipped and typed in someone else's reference number, so that $1,000 has gone to another church in the conference instead. And so when that sort of thing happens, send us an email, GSC TNO support at adventist.org.au, because we can then work with CMF in order to then identify where those funds are, because there is an unidentified funds account. And so when we receive funds into the general account that cannot be directly attributed to a church, we can then go and have a look in there. And so with the email, if you attach your bank deposit slip, we know the exact amount, which church, what day, so we can then have that allocated to your church so we can find that money again. The other situation that happens maybe, which is hopefully a lot less infrequent, is receiving money into your account that you don't recognise. And so if you received $1,000 and you think, hang on, I'm not sure where this came from because it's not my weekly offering. It's not from Pathfinders or anything else. It may be the opposite scenario of scenario one. Another church has made a deposit, but someone at Westpac has accidentally typed the wrong number, and so you have received the funds instead of the other church. And so the end result is exactly the same. If you can send us an email at GSC TNO Support to let us know about that, because there's probably another church saying, where's my money? And so we can marry the two. Okay, so if you see some money in your account that you don't recognize, please let us know so we can help sort that out. Just as much as when you don't see some money that you expect, let us know as well so we can find it for you. Yeah, that's right. So the 3 steps: receipting, receipt search so that we can print, and then bank deposit. 3 key steps to do each week. And when we do it each week and you get into a weekly cycle, a weekly rhythm, it doesn't take too long at all. We can always encourage our church members onto e-giving apps or barcodes or something like that, which reduces our workload as well, in order to make life a lot easier for us. But it's very important that, and if we step through those processes slow and steady, just those 3 processes, then it saves so much time later on. So if we rush and we miss a few things or make a mistake or something, then it takes a lot of extra time to then go and unwind things and to redo it. And so, yeah, my other word of encouragement would be around just take it slow and steady, and it won't take too long, and then we do it right first time. And then, yeah, it makes life easier. Yeah. Yes?
You mentioned that it does show the total once you pick
Which receipts? Yes. That's exactly right. So, yeah, during the bank deposit process, when you select the little checkbox at the top left, check that it shows a total of what you've selected, and that should equal your count for the week. Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh. So in terms of printing receipts and how many fit on a page, that's the question. Do you print to PDF or directly from the screen to a printer? Right. My initial suggestion would be to try and print to PDF first, because it does minimise what appears, and then print the PDF to your printer. Yes, I think you'll find that you'll see a lot more receipts on one page, one A4 page. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Month end, close process, reconciliation. To do the bank reconciliation, you have to go to period close, bank reconciliation, bank account. If you have more than one, you have to change the account here. In this case, we just have CMF account. If you can't see any reconciliation here, because all of them are already done, if you want to see the ones already done, just unclick only and verify and search, and you can see the reconciliations that are already being reconciled. I need to use a real scenario because the training doesn't work well for reconciliation. So I will use this chart here to do the reconciliation. So I need to open a new one. So I will click in plus new. we will have two options of reconciliation: manually reconciliation or automatically one. I know you guys, the ones are being in this role for a long time. You are guys used to do the manually reconciliation, but import from CMF is much easier. So I'll show you guys how to do the import from CMF. Just click import from CMF, and all given transactions you'll be auto-matched. So you don't need to do anything about it. So it's easier. You just need to reconcile the cash deposit entry and the expenses you have done. So this is the offering of the last period. So I will click in the item on the bank statement, and I will also click in the ACAS transaction side. This roll up is happen when we close the period, so you don't have to enter. It goes automatically here. So you just need to select both sides and click and match, and it will disappear from your screen. So we have one deposit here. I found here the bank deposit entry. Just click and match. You can also, we won't have this option in this reconciliation, but you can also select more than one. Just click in one and click in control. And you can select more than one if you need. Like if you have done an adjustment, or you have two deposits and you just enter one in the bank, you can select more than one and match it as well. But it's not this case.
And so during this process, if the dates are slightly different to the deposit, it doesn't really matter. So hence, if we put the date on Sabbath instead of the Monday when the funds went into the account, it doesn't matter. What's key is the dollar values match. And so at the top of the screen, when they match, you'll see there's a variance box, and that should be nil. Okay, at the end it will show that, yes. So on the top right-hand corner, I think it shows a positive and a negative, and those two amounts should match each other.
If you had done any reverse, you will see in both sides one credit and another debit. I think you guys already seen this, because sometimes you call, could you clear for me? The way we clear is you need to select both in the same side. If like these two was the same amount but one negative and other positive, you can just select both. But you have to select one more item from the bank statement plus this one. So in this case, you can clear the reverse you have done. It's not this case yet because we don't have this option here. Plus two more items. Do you know what I mean?
So hence, if we did a reversal for a bank deposit, we would see three entries on the ACAS side. Yeah, the initial, the reversal, and then the redone. And so in this process, we need to select the three entries on the ACAS side and the one entry on the bank side.
Yes. But we don't have this scenario now, so I just want to select the ones, this one, and match it. If there's something, I know some churches are paying expense through CMF, not from ACAS. I don't think it's a good idea, but if you are doing, you have to enter the expense that we're going to cover later. We have to see if something is outstanding here for expenses, enter it as well, if there's something you haven't entered yet. So you have to select all items. Because, yeah, probably you guys, if you already close, if April is closed, you don't have any reconciliation to do at the moment. Yes. Which period is open in your training section? Antique and verify. What is the last one? I need to have a look. So you just select. You can see in this case, like we were talking about, if something is outstanding here because of because it's the last day of the month, it can be wait for the next month to be reconciled. So it's not a big problem if you have one ACAS transactions outstanding when you close, because it should appear in the next period. Or if the deposit is missing and you need to contact us to ask for transfer the deposit for your church, it will appear only in the next period. So you can just leave there. If there's a lot of expense sitting here, you have to check, because sometimes you didn't pay. You put it through system, but the second signature never signed, and the payment's still outstanding. You know what I mean? You got?
So in the example we touched on earlier, where the last day of the month might be a Sabbath, and we're doing processing a deposit. So in our example, we were talking about May. Then potentially I would have a receipt entry or a bank deposit entry on the right-hand side, but I have to wait until I get the June CMF statement through to actually see that amount. And so on the right-hand side, we can have ACAS and entries that aren't matched just yet. That's perfectly fine. They would just appear on the bank reconciliation process when we complete that. That's perfectly fine. What we cannot do, though, is have entries on the bank side. They all need to be matched with an entry. And so often, or I find, when I get to the end of the month, there is one entry in particular that I need to make sure that I do a receipt for, which is usually CMF interest, because it's not something that happens on a weekly basis. And so during this process, I may see on the left-hand side there, CMF interest receipt, and that's a trigger for me. I have to go and create that receipt process. So I go back into receipt entry to then generate that entry. I then print that as well. So I print that to PDF and I save it so that I have a record of that, and I actually attach the bank statement to that as evidence of the amount that we've received. Then I can go back into the bank reconciliation process again, and now I have an ACAS entry there for me to match against the bank side.
Can you save the bank reconciliation process up to that point so that you don't have to re-enter all the work that you've done before?
Can we see all the entries?
Can you save all the entries?
Yes. So each time you want to move away from the bank reconciliation screen, it will bring up an error message or a message that says, do you wish to save first? And so, yes, we need to then make sure we save so that we don't lose any work that we've already done. So we can then go elsewhere, create the receipt, and then come back into the bank reconciliation step as well. So you can do that as many times as you want. If there was an expense there that you think, oh, hang on, that's all right, we paid that, but I haven't put something through, then I just go to expenses and process that, and then come back to bank reconciliation again, or if there was something like that.
For the CMF entry receipt, you're going to do like we do for tithes and offers. The giver is CMF distribution, and the account is CMF interest. Like I have this one here, interest and CMF distribution income. If you don't close the periods, if you stay open outstanding for 4 months or more, instead of receive the interest, you're going to pay the interest. So if you have to pay the interest for CMF, you will issue one receipt, but the amount's going to be negative. And you have to print and then do the bank deposit entry like for the other receipts as well. So I already started the reconciliation. I just saved, so I can leave the page and come back. Like if I go bank reconciliation, I have this one we started open. Just double click, and here I have the CMF distribution. So if the amount's sitting on debit side, it means the receipt needs to be negative. Just select both sides, match 0. Variance 0, so Done. My reconciliation is done. I just need to save it. Go back to the bank reconciliation. Just click once and click and verify. Done.
So what is often a good idea as well is to attach the bank statement. So just before you do the verify step down the bottom, like with most of the screens, you can add an attachment. So I'd highly recommend you then just attach the bank statement as well. So against the bank reconciliation is a bank statement, so that there is evidence, I guess, in the system as to ensure that all balances match. And so when it comes to potentially an audit for your church as well, some of the information that the auditors will ask for will be tithe envelopes or count sheets or bank statements so that they can verify details against. Whereas if you have all that already saved in ACAS, because you've saved the bank statements against bank deposit, against your receipts and your bank deposit as well, you've already saved your offering and your scanned copy of the tithe envelopes, then audit is an easier process because people in the conference office can just automatically access that as well, or directly already. So we don't need to send the information in. And so it makes that process a lot easier as well.
For bank reconciliation, not for CMF account, but for the other ones, we don't have the CMF automatically reconciliation. We have to do manually. So I will click and I will see the last period close. So the last period reconcile is March. I need to open one for April. So in this case, you have to select the period. And here you need to see all transactions related to the receipts or payments you had done in your Westpac account. In the bank statement amount, you put the total at the end of the bottom of your statement, or at the beginning of the page as well. And you select all items in the... Someone has a reconciliation on Westpac open that I can show?
Hindu or Rungas, if you like, that'd be good.
While you're there, do the bank reco.
Exactly.
This process might seem complicated because we're matching from an ACAS entries to the bank statement, but it's not. If we go back to our weekly processes, if we do those 3 steps, the receipts, the print, and the bank deposit, this process takes 2 minutes. Match, 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 match. I find that. And when doing expenses, make sure we post and we attach the invoice to it. Match, match, GST, match, match if we've received some money, or CMF receipts, matches quickly. So this process, it might seem complicated, but it's not if we remember that weekly process. Now, if we fail in that weekly process and it becomes difficult and we're trying to catch up, then this can become more complicated. So yet again, just trying to emphasize that.
So in statement amount, you're going to put the closing balance, and you can see if all items the variance needs to be 0 as well. So you have to check item by item to see if you have entered all of them. If the variance is 0, just attach the statement here, because in this case we don't have any copy, because CMF you can print it on ACAS, but for your account we don't have a copy. We can't see, so it's really important to attach the statement.
So if we can scroll up a little, Jason. What's important here is, yet again, that weekly process to know which bank you are selecting. And so hence, if we have a deposit or a payment in our secondary bank accounts, but we select CMF, then we're going to have an issue here. And so, yes, we do need to go back and then reverse that deposit and redo it to make sure we select the right bank account as well. So during those three steps, those three processes, the period to make sure we're posting in the correct period, the date, as well as the bank account. We need to ensure, so when we go through it slowly, when we make sure that our bank account is selected correctly, then what happens at the end of the month is all of our bank entries for that second account are already listed here. And so top of the screen, we just enter our closing balance for the month, which I get off the physical copy of the bank statement. I tick the check box at the top left-hand corner, which highlights them all, and then I should see a variance of nil there on the screen. And so this process becomes quite easy, even for a second bank account, if we've taken our time and we're accurate with those three steps on a weekly basis. Make sure we select the right bank account, the right month, etc. And yes, attaching the bank statement here is important as well, just as when doing the CMF bank reconciliation as well. Yeah, it's important to attach that as well. And so that should then mean you're in a position to close the month, because both of your bank reconciliations, everything has been matched. You've saved, you've uploaded the bank statement there. On the bank reconciliation screen, we have ticked verify. And all that is to do is to say that don't touch it because it's complete. And so the system then sort of protects the bank statement that month from any entries that might try and accidentally post to there later on. And so it's complete. And then the next step then is the period close, which we'll see here.
Once you have completed your reconciliation, you have to go to period close. And this is screen you open. In this case, all of the bank reconciliations should be April. Yeah, in this case it's March, but should be April. If you have any receipt not printed, it won't allow you to close it because you have to print all receipts. So this button here won't be able to be clicked because there's some receipts still waiting to be printed. So you have checked have all offers being recorded? Yes. Have all payments being recorded? Okay, yes. Have all bank statements be reconciled? All good. Should be April in this case here. In the middle of the page, you can see the payments for K-Church payments. The payment method always is going to be CMF internal. All good. Just click and save and continue. And period close. All good. You won't receive any mail from me asking you why it's not open, why it's still open.
So when we step through this process, so the period close, the three check boxes, they're not there just to annoy us, but it's to trigger our memories. Have I made sure that I've actually done everything? Yeah, before we then close the month. Because if we close the month and everything is not done, then it creates accounting challenges at the conference for us later. But also, we don't want to close a period too soon. So what if I closed this month and then someone says, "Oh, can I put through an invoice from RMS that I've now just received for insurance for last month?" So our processes within ACAS means that is possible should that be required, but we are strongly discouraging that now. And so only if it's a very good reason. Otherwise, so something like an invoice, we'll say, perfectly okay, post into the next month. That's fine. Because when we try and reopen a month, it creates accounting challenges for us at the conference as well. And so during this close process, we'll see a report that is generated when we close the month. So this has training over it because that's the environment we're in. But it's worth saving that. So I save that report as well. During any of these processes, if a report shows up on screen, I usually save it because it might come in handy at some point in the future. It also reminds me of when I closed that particular month because I can see the printed date on the top right-hand screen. And in particular, if you're a church that is low of funds and so you're managing how you close, then it's very important because in this case, maybe we don't do March, but we now have enough cash so we can do March and April together. And so it's good to track what's happening. And so it's worth printing this off as well so you know and can recall when you closed each particular month. So at the bottom of this report, it'll show a dollar amount, and that should then tie back to the bank statement the following month. So the T&O amount that then went to the conference as well. So that will then appear on next month's bank reconciliation in order to then match off. So it is important that down to this point, we accomplish all of this by day 15. And so, yeah, when we go through that weekly process, and should be no more than half an hour, the three steps, the receipts, the printing, and the deposits. And then at the end of the month, or the last week of the month, we do the same three steps, but then we, by the 10th, or the 15th, I should say, by the 15th, we then just run through a couple of extra steps at the end there, the bank reconciliation, so that is all cleared, and then we do the period close by the 15th. Yeah. Do I have any questions in respect to that period close or the bank reconciliation? Yeah. So we will touch on GST, the stuff in a short while as to what's required there. But yeah, when we finish the month, if all your expenses are loaded against each line item, if your invoices are loaded, against each line, then by all means send an email to the conference to then say, please claim GST for the month that I've just closed, whatever that is, March or April. Or, yes. That is correct. If we don't receive an email, then we don't know that all invoices have been attached, because it is possible to go through all of this process and close a month but not have invoices attached to each expense line. And so we don't know at the conference whether or not you are happy for us to go ahead and do that. So hence, if you only have one invoice attached, if we work on the assumption that the month is closed and so therefore we should claim GST on your behalf, we are only going to claim GST on the one invoice and not the other 9 that have no attachments. But we'll talk about that, in a little while. That is possible, and so we'll look at that this afternoon. Oh well, in a little while after, when we go through GST. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, if you have an accounting background and you know how to do a journal to do, I think it's easier to do a receipt, but you... Yeah, if you don't have a giver, it calls CMF, you just create one. Yeah, you can create one and use the CMF interest account. The account as well. If you don't have, just email me, I will open it for you.
I'm just going to jump to what happens after end of month. We'll go back and do some expenses and GST and all of those types of things, but I am mindful of the fact that we have different people who may or may not be able to be here right the way through to lunchtime as well, or different levels of skill set and going, I don't really need to know about expenses. I know I've got that pretty under control. You're more than welcome to stay right through to the end, but we just sort of thought I thought I would just share with you what the expectations are of what is being reported to the board. Now, the system is pretty good in respect of the reports that you do get, and it generates itself once you've done all of the end of month process, and you've put all your you put your receipts in, you've put your expenses in, and you've done your reconciliation, and you've got nothing left on your bank reconciliation to enter, and it's like, right, I've got to the point where I can now do some reporting. And so the expectation is that there are at least 3, maybe 4, but particularly 3 reports that we would like you to ensure are presented to your church leadership committee, whether it be your board or a leadership committee if it's a local, group or company. And so these, and what I would like to do, and we're always advocating for different reports or different ways of doing things with ACAS itself, and I'll just touch on the GST comment that came up before, as to whether an email to the conference office is required. Unfortunately, at the moment it is, and we'll get to a little bit more of that. But what I would like to actually get to the point of doing is that as part of the end of month process, there's a check, a little checkbox there that says, I've checked and made sure that the GST invoices, or the invoices and tax receipts and things like that are attached. There's a whole lot more about GST that we will talk about. But back to the funds reports, the reports that we expect to go to the conference, to your local church board, is there is a conference tithe report. Every church, and I know the names is disconcerting because it's like conference tithe sounds like it's going to show a report that shows all of the conference tithe. If you are in your local church, conference tithe only shows the tithe that has been collected for your conference, for your church itself. There's the income and expense report. There's a fund report. There's a bank reconciliation report, and if you are an Excel person and you want to export some extra details, there's a statement of financial position report that can be exported to Excel. Not always required, but we will step through that. Now, on your as part of your documentation that you received, you will have 2 of these reports. One says financially healthy church example. One says financially with red unhealthy church. Now, these are de-identified, but they are actual reports out of our GSC system as well. And so I will go through, firstly, what a healthy church looks like, if that's okay. And so feel free to grab your report and follow along as well, and write notes if you want to on your report or your documentation in front of you. The conference tithe report. Now, this one is one that, look, when I was acting church treasurer, I actually didn't provide this to the church, but it wasn't until that I came along to look at it from a CFO perspective, I'm going, actually, that's actually quite helpful. One, it shows what you've reported on and whether you're actually up to date. Okay, and so this just gives you what has been collected and what has been remitted. Now, what has been collected is everything that relates to e-giving and the cash receipting that you've done for tithe, and that tells you how much tithe you are actually collecting through your local church. The other, the one that says tithes remitted is tithe that's actually been transferred to the conference as part of the month-end process that you have just completed. And so I'll show you a little bit of what happens, what this report looks like in an unhealthy church that is very many months behind as well. So any questions on that report? Peter? It's called Conference Tithe Report. Under Reports.
Not there. I can't see it.
Oh. Maybe it's a... Conference Tithe? It's not on yours.
Not on mine either.
Oh, maybe it's our access, Jaser. They don't have it. Oh, my goodness. My apologies. Anyway, I'm telling you what we can see and what looks healthy and what doesn't. And so, yes,
A little hard for us to...
A little hard for you to present. Maybe we'll ask for that to be added as well, because it's actually quite a good report, as you can see on your sheet, that does help show the church leadership that you've actually paid or transferred the tithe through to the conference as well.
By month on tithes and offerings.
So the tithes and offerings report, you can see the same information by month. Okay. Probably not the most important, but is one. The next one that I would. Ooh, we got some crackles, definitely. The next one that I'd like you to look at is on that the third page of your documentation, and that is the income and expense statement. Now, an income and expense statement is a financial report that summarises the money received for your local church and the money spent for your local church over a specific period, and what you've got left in the bucket. And so this is also, depending on how your church is set up, you can talk to Jaser, because you can actually group things slightly differently based on the funds, and we'll get to that in a second. But this provides you with a list of all the income that you get just for the local church and all the expenses that you have to pay just for the local church. And when you get to the bottom of your screen, I'll go over to the page on. And it says, so the report, if you're looking at your actual documentation, is an income and expense statement, Church B, and it's the flip side of that income and expenditure statement. Ooh. And so this then shows that for this example shows that for the period, you've got a surplus of $17,000 on that one, and that's sorry. Well, for some churches, it's actually really healthy, and it depends on the size of the church and things like that too, and what the needs are. But the good thing is that it's actually not a negative. Okay, and we'll get to that. If you go over the page to the funds report, SDA Church B, it says. Now, this one has not been grouped into various funds. So you have the big bucket, And then you can have your little buckets within that big bucket. And obviously you want to have more money coming into the bucket than what is leaving that the bucket. And so at the end of the day, you've got your local fund that this one has only really got one major fund bucket, but you could go, okay, we want to have a Pathfinder income, a Pathfinder fund account, and so have the Pathfinder income and Pathfinder expenses under that one bucket. Or you may want a Sabbath school bucket, a sub bucket, and have income for Sabbath school and expenses for Sabbath school. Or it could be a plethora of other ministries that you may want to actually have reported slightly differently. This one just groups it all into local church budget.
If you want to see what options of accounts we have, if you go to the general ledger and click in accounts, we will have all accounts we have. If you click in show inactive, you can see the options, and you can email me and ask me, could you open this one for me if you have one of these you want to open to organize better the accounts. Just email me and I can open it for you.
Okay, and so the aim of this, or in this report that we're actually seeing here, is the income and expenditure statement just tells you what you have received for that particular year. Okay, or that period that you're actually looking at. The fund report provides you with an opening balance of what has happened prior to the periods that you're looking at, and a closing balance. In this instance, you've actually got a closing balance of 187,000, and that says CR, which is in credit. And at the end of the day, for this particular church, that's a really healthy balance. Okay, so your income and expenditure is just for that particular period of time. My reports I ran for the calendar year, and so this is the ending report of how much was left in the church funds, in that all those buckets collected together for that particular church. And so this was actually a reasonably healthy church. The bottom component is really important as well, and this is something that I think needs to be highlighted a little bit more with your boards or your leadership committee, and that is the reconciliation section. And that section tells you how much, like this one says zero cash at hand, and so that means that all the money has actually been put into the bank account, and that is then sitting in the cash management facility line. So this church has also got another bank account as well, and so the two bank accounts collected together, plus your GST receivable and payable component that is able to be claimed back from the ATO. The balance of that then is how much assets, particularly your liquid cash type assets, the church actually has. And so that is good, and when it balances. So if your closing balance for your fund account balances with the fund report, balances with what your reconciliation says at the bottom of that page, and that's excellent when that actually happens. And this just gives you a little bit of a picture of what to balance. So that's your closing balance along with your reconciled assets balance, and that's what a clean report should look like. There are some churches that have got some, when we were doing the tithes and offerings reporting system, so TORs, there's a few churches that I've noticed that has some cleanup that still has to happen. So that's something that we'll need to help with a church with. So if there is issues in relation to that reconciliation component, just send a message to Jaser and we will help you resolve that. Any questions on income and expenditure statements and the fund statement? Peter? the report total.
So it says fund total 189 and report total 187.
Where's your 189?
Just up a bit.
Above that one.
There's two funds.
Yes.
So the large group was totaling 187, and then the small group. So the 189 is for this group, and then there is a debit of 1,200 odd here for the first fund as well. So when we add both together, we end up with 187. So to the point earlier made, it is far better to have a lot of smaller groupings. So to have pathfinders separately, income and expenditure, and women's ministry income and expenditure, rather than everything under one group. And so, yeah, if you have that opportunity, let us know, because there are some churches that do look like this. Yeah, my recommendation is let us know, and we can try and spit it out for you. It makes it easier to manage funds as well.
It's also easier to do the reporting for your each ministry area as well, because you can just give them a bit of a snapshot view of that particular area. Any other comments or questions in relation to income and expenditure and funds? Eva.
So with the funds report, when you create an expense, how does it know which fund to allocate that expense to?
Yeah, good question. And so when processing an expense claim or creating a journal even, in that process we select an account that you wish that expense to go to. And so many instances it's local budget, but if we're paying something for Pathfinders, then we, in the bottom section, and we'll touch on that momentarily as we go through expenses, we would select Pathfinders as the account we want that expense to go to.
Expense accounts are linked to various allocated funds.
Correct. So on the screen, the report that we'll see there, there'll be so the receipts are linked to the income account, the income funds lines in the report, just as the expenses will be linked to the expense line in the report as well. Yes.
How much control do we have over, can we change which accounts are linked to which funds?
I know when I was an assistant treasurer and a acting treasurer for local church, I just did it myself because I was told how to do it. But at the moment, just contact JASA through the GSC TNO support, and she can provide some guidance, or will do it for you. So is it that you have to do it yourself? Yes. Okay. So Peter, you set up what groupings you want based on your income and expenditure, and send a mud map through to JASA, and she can do it.
If the treasurer is pretty confident with what they are doing, I can give the option to give. But the other ones are not sure how to do, just email me. But if you know you have a accounting background, you know how to work, just email me. You can give us access to open new accounts.
I'd be happy for Peter to have that access.
Can you see anywhere or only on that report?
If you go into the general ledger area and the accounts, you'll be able to see what is linked. Income and expenditure accounts for the local church income and expenditure only are linked to those funds accounts. So, yeah, look, just sit there and go, I would look at, for those churches who are going, or treasurers who are going, I don't really want to touch the back end, just sit there with your fund report and go, okay, Pathfinder income and Pathfinder expenses, I want that grouped into a Pathfinder fund account. Or you've got utilities and water and water, electricity, if you put that into a utilities expense, but you've also got general expenses for local church and cleaning expenses, all of those types of things, and you just want them grouped into a local church budget, that you can do that. And then it might be primary, like if you're going, okay, we're ensuring that primary Sabbath school has a budget. You can set up an income and expenditure account for primary Sabbath school or junior Sabbath school or adventurers or whatever your ministry area is. I know if you're running a food bank, for instance, from your local church account, you might want to have a food bank fund so that you know what's coming in as donations for food bank, but also your expenses when you're buying extra items for food bank. Rebecca, did you have a question? Yep. Okay, so the question was, can we actually set the fund report with the income and expenditure groupings? Can we set that up so it reflects your budget report? And the answer is yes. It might be that it's in alphabetical order, but at least you've got it grouped into the various sections that you do want to have as part of your budget. Yes. So, okay. So Jay's has just gone through how to do a bank reconciliation. I'm just going to explain to you what a bank reconciliation is for those of you who are new to this. So a bank reconciliation is a process to identify and explain the differences between a company, entity, churches, records from a cash balance to what is reported in the bank. And so what is in your system may be slightly different to what's reported in the bank. Some of that could be from a timing thing. Some of it could be because of an error. And some of it is that you just have to then go, well, what's the difference? What do I need to do with this? And so doing the bank reconciliation is one thing. And I know for those of us who are accountants, probably the first aha moment was, I've done the bank reconciliation, but what do I do to fix it? How do I adjust it? And it's like, I'm the one who has to do that as well. So and it's just, this helps to do a double check to ensure that there's accuracy. It also detects some errors, but there is always going to be timing differences as well. So you might find that you've made a payment on the last day of the month, and that's been processed, but it may not necessarily turn up on your bank statement for that particular day. And it's not so bad now with how we do the CMF transfers, because they're pretty instant these days, but there are at times some differences that are timing related as well. The other thing is that it also is a bit of a canary in the mine shaft. It also detects when there is some unauthorised transactions, or that there's potential misappropriation or fraud components that may come up as well. Not that we see that very often, but we do see it on the odd occasion. And so this is a bank reconciliation report that can be printed, and the first bit will tell you all the things that, when you've done the checking and you've gone, yes, I've got that, I've processed that, and you've done the checking off, it will put a list of transactions in what has been, what is called reconciled transactions. And so that will list everything that's reconciled. The bit that is important to look at is what's called the unreconciled transactions. And in this instance, in this report, right down the bottom, there is one transaction that hasn't actually been reconciled. and then you've got a zero variance at the bottom. It's important to have a zero variance. If you've got a variance there that's not zero, that is something that if you know how to fix it yourself, that's fine. If you're having some challenges, please speak to Jaser. But it is important to ensure that the amount of unreconciled transactions come to the point of being limited to something that is timing, or something that you may not be able to fix but you're going to in the following week, or you've actually already spoken to Jaser and gone, hey, we've had a deposit of $1,000 that just has not turned up. We've accounted for it, we've receipted it, but it hasn't turned up, and that's where we can check what is called the unidentified transactions account within CMF, and you can say it was deposited on this particular day at this particular branch, and we should be able to locate it and then transfer it back so that you can then match it off the reconciliation. Any questions? Dave? It does. I would not be giving this report to the board at all. It is just one that I would just sort of say, show the church chair, the church board chair, and say, look, here's the reconciliation. It's all reconciled, but I wouldn't be giving that report out to anyone. On this one, I've I've just hidden all of the names. That's all. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I'll just skip over the next one. This is a balance sheet that can only be exported, but it is something for those of you who are accountants. You might want to have a little look at that. What we do like to see is ensuring that your balance sheet has a zero balance. So your balance sheet is made up of assets, which is things that are owned by the church or is being paid to the church if there is any debtors. But then the liabilities component is what the church owes. And so if there are months that have not been closed, that liability section will be quite large because it will be tithe that is a liability because that hasn't been transferred to the conference, or any non-local offerings, NLO offerings you'll see quite often. That means non-local offerings. Those are then transferred as well. And so if you haven't closed end of month, that liability section will be greater, and I'll show you that in a bit. Okay, we're going to flip to an unhealthy church, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an exercise here. And on the first page, which looks like this, and obviously this is a report that you guys don't get because I have more access than you do, but can you tell me what's wrong with this page?
Haven't closed the period.
And how many periods have not been closed?
Quite a few.
A lot. A lot. Thankfully, this is minority, but they do add up to quite a bit. Now, any given month at the moment, because of some of the challenges that we have with some of our local church treasury teams, and that can be because of time and or not sure what they're doing, or there's a whole lot of reasons, or they've gone on leave, or they're unwell. We can, if you are not able to close an end of month, please speak to Jaser or one of our finance team, because we can help you. We don't want you to get to the point of feeling so overwhelmed that you've got so many months that are actually not closed. At the moment, we have anywhere between $400,000 and $700,000 a month that is not actually this is tithe that is unable to be transferred from the local church to the conference. It doesn't happen automatically until we do an end of month. And so anything at the moment with e-giving that comes through to your church, that's quarantined in your church accounts until you finalise the end of month process. Now that also impacts on conference cash flow, because that also is where we pay for evangelism grants and field staff like your pastor and Bible workers and all of that. And so it does impact. And so we would like to work towards ensuring that we can minimise what that outstanding tithe is. David?
Question, can I not close the month so that the local church has more money so I get more interest?
Good question. Very well. It's a great strategy until you get to the point of closing those end of months, because the system is designed to, yes, you'll end up with more money in your bank at the end of a month, but when you do close those periods, they will recalculate how much interest you would have actually or should not have received, and what should have gone back to the conference. So they will recalculate that, and you will most likely end up seeing a negative interest on that particular month where you've closed a lot of months. So please don't think that that's actually going to help you greatly. All right. We'll go over to the next page. So this is an income and expenditure statement for the church. Can you tell me what's wrong with this? Rebecca says they're spending too much money. Anyone else agree with that? Absolutely. So they have got $3,000, $3,500 as total income, and they have spent $45,500 in that particular period, so that particular year. And look, that is possible that your church may end up in a situation like this. You may be going, we've just spent, I know Wahroonga's just done a renovation of some bathrooms, and so they've spent many tens of thousands of dollars to renovate those bathrooms. And so there are times when that is okay to have more expenditure than your income. However, you've also got to make sure that your fund account, that how much is left in the bucket, actually stays in credit, that you've actually still got funds there as well. And so I know you guys do. I know you guys do. But this particular church is starting to have some problems because this has been an ongoing year-on-year issue for them. And so it got to the point, and I'll go to the fund account. It got to the point on the fund, if you flip over the page to the fund account, where this unfortunately was a misappropriation of funds matter in this particular church, and it got to and also mismanagement of funds. Okay, and so it got to the point where the church was saying, where is all our building fund? Where is all our building fund money? Because their CMF account had much less than what their building fund was set up like. So if you have a look at the page 1 of the fund report, you'll see that, and this also is a way that we can set it up. It's set up with the fund buckets that we were talking about before as well. So that gives you an example of how we can set it up. And so what you will see is that your building fund, how much money is in the building fund report? 92,000. That's quite a lot of money. That'll help if this was Wahroonga Church, which it's not, but that would have definitely helped pay for some bathrooms. Okay? But then if you start going down the page, general fund, how much money is in the general fund account? $83,781. Is there a CR or a DR next to it? What is a debit mean? A deficit. So they have overdrawn their local general funds or their local budget funds. And so the question that the church asked me was, where is all our building fund money? It's gone. And that's what I said. You guys have spent it on all sorts of things. And I was able to list what they had spent their money on. It gets to the point, if you're a church like this, gets to the point that the only lever that is able to be pulled is the fact that Nadell says to Jaser and David, turn off their access to CMF so that they cannot make any more payments. Because the issue is that they've still got money in their bank account because they've got all of the tithe and non-local offerings that hasn't actually been transferred to the conference. And so at the end of the day, they still had money in their CMF account. And what was being reported to their local church board was, here's our bank statement. This is how much money was in our bank. And so it's really, really important to ensure that what you share with your church leadership team is your fund report, not your bank statement. And so if you go over the page to of the fund report to page 2, with this report, if you look at the report total, they've still got $10,987 credit that is theirs to spend. However, they have a significant amount of trade payables. So if you go down to the little section that's called reconciliation, and this is where I talked about the financial statement component. I'm going to stand back here. I think that's part of an issue. You've got assets and you've got liabilities. So trade payables, there's something weird that's also happening with this one. It needs to be fixed because there's some ongoing old issues that need to be resolved. But your trade payables, how much is owing? $156,000. How much money is in their bank account? In their fund balance? 10,000. And what is in their bank balance was not that much as well. And so I share this with you not to share dirty laundry for another church, but to just say be mindful of the fact that your bank statement is not your report that you give to your leadership committee. It's at least your fund report that you're providing in this space. Any comments or questions? David.
If people ask us as a treasurer, can I keep spending money because it's really important for me to do so, and we get to something like this, what should I do as a treasurer?
Resign.
The question... The question was, if it got to the point that I'm getting pressured as a treasurer by ministry spaces to actually keep spending money, and at what should I do in this situation? And Chris answered, resign. Well, you could. That's not necessarily going to be that helpful if you actually know what you're doing as a treasurer. You take it to the church board and you identify the situation with the church board, and it may even come to the point where it's a conversation that needs to happen with the conference going, how do we help with resolve this? And it might be that this is a situation that you're the new treasurer and you've inherited this, but nobody has actually told the church board what the situation is. Can I also say that if this is something that you're identifying with your church board and you're the chairman of your church or chairperson of your church board is often the pastor, maybe the head elder, but it's often the pastor. If you're not getting through, if your messaging isn't getting through to your church pastor, then it's very much time to have a conversation with the conference. Okay. I had a situation where I, as the CFO, was ringing one of the church pastors over and over and over and going, I need you to resolve this. You need to talk to your church treasurer. Something's going on. We can't put our finger on exactly what's happening. We can't see. We just don't have any visibility of the stuff. It's just that your church is getting into a really deep hole. And so there is, we need to, as a conference, we need to get to a point where we've caught up on all our work so that we can then help just monitor and manage and maintain some oversight in that space too, which thanks to David and Jazer and Marku, we've actually got some reporting that is now able to provide that in greater clarity than what I've had before. And that is something we're always speaking to the team that do the development for ACAS and going, we need better reports. And so from a conference level, that's been something that I've been I'm going to say banging on about for the last 3 years, but it's now at a point where it has to be done because of the fact that there is some significant oversight matters that we need as conferences need to be aware of. Any other questions, comments? No? So at least the two most important reports that you send through to your board are fund report is a must. Your income and expenditure statement is just as important because that income and expenditure statement is pretty much on your fund report you have an opening balance, you have a column that says income, you have a column that says payments and transfers, and then you have a closing balance column. And so so that income and expenditure statement just provides a nicer report in some respects than what for that period and that movement between the opening and closing balances of your report, if you've chosen the same period that you're reporting on. Rahela?
Just one thing I noticed between the healthy and the unhealthy when I was looking at the income and expense statement, there was a lot more detail in the expenses listing, whereas the unhealthy just said local budget expense 29,000.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one said electricity.
Yes, and so these are accounts that we can make sure that you have open in your accounts to provide that greater transparency. We're not actually going to fully touch on budgeting today. That'll be our potential next session. But if you're at a point where you want to have some budgeting done within the system, which is possible, then reach out to Jazer and she can provide some guidance on that. I believe that some of the information's already in the training manual that you've got today that gives you some guidance on how to set those up as well. Anything else on reporting? Nope. Okay. I will leave that there and we will go on to expense processing.
So momentarily, just one thing I wanted to raise in respect to the funds report. So when you look at the report, you may see on the right-hand side that you have a large amount of funds for that particular year that has gone through. And you think to yourself, 100,000 in revenue? Why is that 100,000? Because we only bring in roughly 20,000 for argument's sake. And the reason is, as there is a process in ACAS, which is a year-end close process. So as part of month-end, we go through that process. And then when we get to December at the end of each year, and we're happy and December is all closed, there is another process, which is a simple process, Just a couple of buttons to click in order to close off the year. And so we'll see here on screen, Jaysha is showing, so under the, there's a menu option there called General Ledger. And at the bottom of the General Ledger, you'll see a line there that says year-end close. And I raise that in particular because most churches don't know about this. And most, I mean almost everyone. And so when you look at the funds report, you might think, why is there so much money there? It's because it's 5 years or 6 years of information on the one report. So the way of getting around that, and we need to make sure that the structure of your accounts, so your funds, that needs to be set up first before we do the rollover. So if you're happy with your structure and you've got your Pathfinder fund account with your income and expenses and your Sabbath school, women's ministries, etc., etc. So if you're happy with the structure, the next step is to run this year-end close process. So General Ledger, year-end, and just by selecting the drop-down box. And so we're in the training environment, but it will apply to your church. And so the lowest year is where we need to start at. So when we click on that drop-down box, if you see a lot of years, it means each of those years have not been closed and rolled over. All we need to do is start from the bottom. Do not start at the top, please. Start at the bottom. So the earliest year, which in many instances is 2017. So select 2017 and then hit run. It will generate a report for you, which you can then save. But it's so important to do that when you're happy with December and December has been closed. And so we then just go through each year. So if I do 2017, I then do 2018, 2019, until we close, and we should then get to 2025 and close that. That will then mean when you look at the funds report, the information you see there will be hunky-dory. It'll make a lot more sense as opposed to having large figures in that report. Then you're thinking, what's going on?
Sorry, but that would be only for that year, right?
Yes. Yes.
So basically approximating what's in your bank.
Yes. So on the funds report, the question is around, is there an equity account there that reflects these year-end rollovers? So what the system, what ACAS does behind the scenes is for each individual account, the closing balance, it moves into an opening balance for that account. So hence, for Pathfinders, if Pathfinders had to really know that Camporee is in 2 or 3 years of fundraising this year, and so you have lots of extra money, what it does is it rolls the extra $3,000 credit into the opening balance for the next year. So we start at that $3,000 credit, and then we see how we go in terms of fundraising for the next year, which might be another $2,000. And so when we roll over that year, and it then becomes time for the expenses of $5,000 for Camporee, then we've already got, in effect, $5,000 banked against Pathfinders in that bucket, and so that will then offset the expense that goes through in year 3 for, say, Camporee. Yes, so, and that's why it's important to have the structure done first, so that each account, it holds that opening, or the closing becomes the opening balance for that account. And so you need the structure done first, yeah.
So if you wanted to adjust the equity of each of those funds, you would do an income, you would do a matching expense, a journal, like a credit expense and a debit expense between Sabbath School and St. Women's Ministries?
So yes, if the board approved a transfer of funds into a ministry area, so if local budget has a lot of extra cash and women's ministries or Sabbath school wanted something, then maybe you would bring a suggestion or a motion to the board to say, are you okay if we transfer $1,000 into women's ministry because of a project that they're undertaking, get board approval, and then we'll be able to do a journal, in order to reflect that, which we'll look at momentarily. Sorry, yes.
The archive funds at the top of the report, is that just like old historical
I'm assuming it would be, yes. I haven't seen that very often in any sort of church. If there are funds in an account that you think, oh, you're not going to use that account anymore. So maybe you did have Pathfinders, whereas now there is no Pathfinders in the church anymore. Then I would suggest, yet again, getting board approval, but to then transfer the funds out of that account into local budget or wherever it needs to be, so that the ending balance of Pathfinders would then be nil. I would suggest doing that. Yes, through a journal, and we'll look at journals shortly. Yeah. So yes, by all means, if everyone, when you go back and you look at your live environment, please look at year-end close, because most churches haven't, and so it's something we really need churches to look at and to do. So just start with the lowest number first, and then close all the subsequent years. Yeah, thank you. So under general ledger.
If you don't have access as treasurer, you may not have access.
Right.
Just press F5. Oh, you've got an Apple. I don't know how to refresh your pages.
Can I just one more thing? Just one more thing in relation to reports. What as a conference I would like to, and I'm working towards, is for some churches, you may go, I just want the system to provide me a link with the reports that I need to provide to the church. Or I want, and so what we're looking at doing is asking the developers to actually push what they call a push notification. So an email to you that says your report, as soon as you've closed end of month, it'll say, here's your reports that you're wanting to send off to the board, or have it go to the church pastor as well. So that is what we're advocating for. Obviously, this system is a system that is used across Australia and New Zealand at the moment, and so, but it is. I sit on a committee where we've gone, we need to have some significant changes in this space. The other is we're also looking at asking for some significant change in the e-giving space. So the e-giving app is at times a little bit clunky and hard to use for some people. And the technology that it's based on and built on is actually old now as well. And so I was sitting in a meeting with the CFO of the South Pacific Division, and there was a few of us going, and including him, this is urgent. This is something that we should have done a few years ago. And so that is very much on the development plan to make sure that that is as easy to use as possible. I think it's over to you.
Expense, we will start with express payment entry, and after that, Maku, you show how to do the K-Church payments. So for express payment entry, it's where you need to go if you have to pay someone, reimburse someone, or pay your electricity or your water. So you have to go to express payment entry. The period is always going to be the period we are at the moment. Even if you are behind, you need to put now is May, you have to put in May. The supplier, you need to select one of them. If you don't have the supplier, I will show later how to enter a new one. Let me just see if no. Yes, just select the supplier. Could be a company or someone else in the church that maybe bought some food for the church, and you can reimburse them as well using ACAS. So you select the supplier, the date, invoice date, you're going to use the one you have the invoice or in the receipt as well. Invoice number, if there's a receipt you need to reimburse, you don't have an invoice number, you can create one, a number for you, like you can put reimbursement for today, going to put 24. You can create one you prefer to put to always use the same kind of invoice number. payment amount is gonna be, you put the total. The bank account, you select the one you paid. So if you you are paying through your Westpac bank local bank account, you select your bank account. Or in this case, I will select CMF. If you want to make the payment through CMF, the payment method always needs to be EFT or BPay. So EFT or BPay. If BPay for water, electricity, yeah. Otherwise, you put EFT. The date needs to be, if you're gonna make the payment today, so it's gonna be the today's date. Details, in this case, you have to put what is this for. You can put some dates, if like water bills for January to March, so you can put January to March. But you have to put some information here. Yes, income side, you don't need to put details if you don't want. But for expense, you have to put details. You can't leave this empty. Yeah, you need to explain where you are spending this money, what is in the invoice or the payment. Any question? Yes?
What is the details section there? Is that what the person will be seeing as like in the comment or reference? Or
Sorry, again?
you know, you're paying to refund someone, right?
Uh-huh.
What would that person see in their in their bank? Is that the details, whatever you write in the details, or
I think I never received the money from the church. I don't know, but I think we'll show the details. Yeah, we can say in the SMF.
if you're paying, you for us, we hire a building.
Yes.
Sometimes when the invoice comes, you need to write whatever. Like
Yeah, you can put the reference here as well. There's a reference that you can put as well if you want to put the reference number.
That's what they would.
Yes. Mm-hmm. We have a reference number here. You will select the account you want to put. If you want to split between different accounts, it's okay as well. If someone buys something for more than one department, you can split between the departments here as well. I think this is the tricky part, and we have a lot of problems with this, is the tax category. Because here is this information here, you show how much we need to claim the GST for you. And sometimes when Ulis or Aldi, or if you buy fresh food or water, there's no GST. So sometimes the total of the GST is not the total of the what you purchase. So you have to do the calculation to see how much GST you need to receive. So I was trying to do, before we could just amend here, put the total GST, yes? Yes, uh-huh. Yeah, this is I want to show you guys, because sometimes not all the invoice has GST, it's just part of this. So in the past, we could just amend the text, but the tax amount, but we can't anymore. So what you have to do, you have to check the GST amount. Get your calculation. If it's $3 in GST, just times 11. So this is the total of the items with GST, inclusive GST. So in this part here, you have to put inclusive GST. So it's $3. The tax needs to match with the receipt. This is we are sometimes spend a lot of time fixing, because no one is checking how much is not matching the GST. So you have to create a new rule. If it's going to be the same receipt for the same purpose, you can just select the same account, and the rest of the receipt you just put not applicable. Yes, if the amount on the receipt not match with the GST, you need to see how much is with GST and how much is without GST. So without GST, you don't have to do.
One attachment because it's one. Well, yeah. So like you only it's still one transaction that you're doing.
So as you can see, adding an extra line does not add an extra transaction. Okay, so it is still one transaction. You're just splitting it into GST and non-GST, and then down the bottom you then have the ability of still attaching the document, but it is attached to that file, which includes 2 rows. Does that make a bit more sense? Yeah.
And for us to be able to claim GST, you need to have a copy of the invoice or the receipt. Just be careful. Sometimes you take a picture of the Woolies Audi, you cut the part of the GST. We can't see. If you can't see, we can claim. Yes. We need to see the ABN number as well. Yeah. If you have just the order, it's not the receipt, we can claim as well. Yeah. We need the receipt, the actual receipt. And just attach the receipt here, select file, attach the receipt. You can select more than one if you want. If you are giving a money for some church, they give money for a funeral or gifts for someone in the hospital, you won't have any receipt, yeah? It's just money, it's just cash. So in this case, you should print maybe an email, yeah? If the pastor or someone in the church authorize the payment, just print the email, save the copy here, or minutes as well. Even if you are big amounts, yeah, it's important to have a minute as well to show that the payment was approved for the board. You can have the receipt and you can have the email as well if you want to be totally covered. So just put whatever you have here and attach this page here. You can, if you want to do it for something you already paid, you can go back and print in attach as well. Don't need to be only here. You can just go in old payments and attach the receipts. Yes. Once you made this payment, all information here is right. You just click and save a new, and it will trigger a payment on CMF. Just click OK. And now we have to go to CMF account, in your CMF account. Unfortunately, the system, they are not, how can I say? They don't talk to each other. Yes. So to send to the second person that will sign the payment, you have to go to CMF account. Someone has any payments outstanding that I can see? Do you have any payments to be paid? Let's see if there's something outstanding here. You will receive a message on your phone to put the password. Oops. There's no payments here. Let's see if I have one payment. Faz fora? Oh yes, we have a lot of receipts. So in this case, we need a second signature. You just go select the one you want to send to the second authorizers. Just go to, let me make it smaller. Just click in view. And you go to forward payment. You need to select the second authorizer here, the person from your church. So if you don't have anyone and you need to be authorized, you can email me, but you need to CC another person in the church, the head elder or someone who can approve the payment as well, so I can second authorize for you guys as well. But it's better if someone in the church. So if you have done this, but you don't remember if you forged someone or not, you can go to View Audit Log, and you can see the payment was added on ACAS, but she hadn't sent to anyone to second authorize. I just sent it to me. So you need to see here, forward to, and see the person's name here. And it means the person will receive the email saying you need to go to CMF to second authorize the payment. Questions?
Yeah. Let's say I get a water bill and it's not due until 10 days' time. Can you in ACAS say when you want it paid?
Yes, you can put...
So that you're not paying in advance.
Mm-hmm.
I hate doing that, personally.
You want to schedule a payment?
Yes.
Yes, just change the date here, the payment date here.
Right. And will that then go to CMF and I can approve it in CMF?
Yes.
But it doesn't actually
Be paid.
be paid until then. So it's all ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, we can identify the date we want it to.
Yes, if you want to schedule a payment, just put the payment date you want, and the second authorized can authorize, and the payment will be done when the date comes.
Good.
Yes? You need to put, it's not better you go straight to CMF, because anyway you need to put on ACAS. You can't live without put on ACAS. So if you put on CMF and you go to ACAS, you're gonna do 2 steps. If you go first for ACAS, you just approve on CMF. It's easier, because anyway this payment needs to go to ACAS, even if you put straight away on CMF. But if you do it instead of payment, because the payment was already done, you won't select EFT, otherwise we'd create a new payment. So you're going to select cash. Yes, just to record the payment. Yes. Yes? No, you can't. In the past, we could just amend the total, just the total text, and it doesn't accept anymore. You need to do the split, yes. Yes, we can't just amend the amount. It needs to be 2 lines. But if you try to save, see if they change the amount. Because I have tried, and it changed the text amount. Yes?
So if I've got a counter bill, for example, and it's due next month, do I change the period to June rather than May? And
Yeah, you can change the period as well here. Mm-hmm.
so it doesn't get paid in May.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, you can change if you want to put the payment in advance, put in the system, but be approved only in the next period, you can change the period as well for the future. If I made a payment, but I made a mistake, and I need to reverse the payment, you just go to expense search. Find the payment and just reverse it. But it won't reverse the payment on CMF. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. They don't talk to each other like this. So we have to go to the payment on CMF, go to the view, and delete the payment. So CMF, just delete. There's no reverse. But on ACAS, you have to reverse the payment. Otherwise, the second person can authorize even if it's reversed on ACAS, because the payment is still there. Yes, if you delete the reverse on ACAS, you need to go to CMF and delete the payment. If you want send for the payment to the second person, the payment will be there, sitting there till someone authorizes. Okay. If you guys, some people sometimes send the payment for more than one for someone in the church, and for me, I won't authorize as well. You need to someone in the church. If I see there's another person, I will leave to the other person. And if you want me to authorize, you need to send me the invoice as well to have a look, to check. It worked? You tried to put just the amount, it worked? Training. Yeah, I tried the real one, it wasn't working. You can have a try, but yes. Yes. You need to ask the person to pay you back. Yeah, if the payment is still outstanding on CMF, is pending or process, it's a red sign, but it's still pending. You just need to call me urgently to ask the CMF to delete the payment. We still have a little time to fix it, but it needs to be fast. Like if it's still sitting pending or processing, we can try to reverse ask for CMF to reverse the payment. I don't know how many hours, maybe a couple hours, because I think 10:30, 11:30, I think. Yeah, they make the payment.
One then, and then there's one at the end of the day.
Yeah, twice a day. So if in the morning, maybe in the lunchtime, they will pay, and we're gonna have another one at the end of the day. Let me see. What is the expense? New supplier. If you have someone to pay, but you don't have here already recorded supplier, you need to create a new one. So you go to admin. General ledger, clients. In this tab here, you can also create a new givers, and you can create a new suppliers. So you just click for a new one, just click in a new. Type, you're gonna select supplier or a giver. In supplier, you're gonna put the information here. You don't need to put the whole information here. You can just put the given name or surname here, the company as well. Reference number, if there's always the same reference number, you can put the number here. And for payments on CMF, you're gonna select EFT. For the other ones, you can use credit debit card if you're using your church has a credit card as well. Or BPay as well, we can use for water, and you just put the BPay bill code here. Otherwise, you just put the EFT. BS number and account number. It's just the numbers, no space, no other sign, just the numbers. The account name, and after that you can pre-select the account you want to use to pay this person. If it's a cleaning or is someone to do if for electricity, you can already pre-select here, but you can also put the account when you are doing the payment. You don't need to put here, just if you want. Just save it. Once you save it, when you go to express payment again, you will see the account details here. You can find the person here. Just select and do all the process. Any questions? No? Marco now will show you guys the payments for K-Church and the new statement we have now.
Thank you, everyone. Briefly on the K-Church, how we process the invoice or charges from the conference coming in from us to you. First, let me elaborate on the important documents that you will receive from us when we send the charges. The tax invoice. One of them is a tax invoice, and the other one is a statement. So tax invoice, you'll receive it as soon as we process and post the charges from the conference. So we will send it to you. Unlike in the past, we send it together, the invoice with the K-Church statement at the end of the month. But in a new system now, the invoices will be coming to as soon as we process at the conference. This is what you're going to receive. A tax invoice, for example, ABC charge, RMS, insurance charge. You'll receive from us, and will be differently treated as to the external supply invoice from outside, because this is something that we are going to change. As you see, the footer of the invoice, the footer of the document, it says electronic fund transfer, payment via Westpac Corporation. Please do not do that on our on the K-Charge invoices. We'll fix that footer comment later on because treatment or payment of conference invoices treated differently, okay, for local churches. Okay, that is an invoice that you will receive as soon as it is processed from us, and then the first week of every month you will receive the statement. Okay, first week of every month we will send you a statement of the previous month entries.
They don't need to
okay?
wait for the statement to make the payment.
Yes, in order to make the payment, you don't have to wait for the statement. Okay, in the new system now, as soon as you receive the invoice, you verify, you confirm that it is yours, you save into the entry, not pay. Don't click pay, but save. But this is the statement that will come first week of every month. Unfortunately, at this time, we are late in producing this, sending the statement to you. And the last statement I believe I've sent is last week, which is March statement. And end of this week, Friday, I'll send you the April statement. First week of June, I will send you the May statement. Then we'll be up to date with sending of our K-Church statement.
Thank you for being patient.
Okay. So the statement, you will receive on the reference column some of the documents identity. Okay. One is CRR, another one, another document will be CRI, and then zeros and then the numbers. Another one will be AR, a journal, JNL. Those are document reference. But CRI, that is customer receivable invoice. So that is the invoice that we send to you every time we posted a charge for local church. CRI, and CRR is the receipt of a payment that we receive from you. That is referenced in the statement. Okay, so that is the difference between the two reference or two document files that you will receive. And then if you can see on a statement, you will see opening balance, okay, in a statement, the one I've sent. Okay, that opening balance represent the balance when we migrate to the new system, which that is the opening balance from the old Sun system, okay? And in the original column, you'll see, for example, on this statement, original column, you'll see for the opening balance amount is 12,150. And what happened to the amount column for that entry? Opening balance, it's not 12,150, it's 1,791. Okay? Because we've been applying all the payments for that opening balance or for that invoice. All the payment that we receive from you that is related to the opening balance, we will apply that payment to that until it zero off the opening balance. But if not, you will see the remaining amount on that entry in the amount column section. Okay, as like the other one, CRI, look at CRI, the highlighted one, the 14th of August. Okay, an invoice of $50, original amount, ABC invoice $50, and then remaining amount is $50, which means that that invoice hasn't been settled or hasn't been paid. It remains outstanding. That is an open item that is appearing in your monthly statement. At the bottom footer, you will see the amount that is according to their terms. If it's a 30 If it's 30 days, then it will appear in that column, 30 days column, and 60 days, 90 days, and the balance, that is the total remaining, the outstanding amount that you need, that is outstanding from your account that you need to clear or pay. All right? That is a statement, and that is the invoice, which is that one on the screen, and how to process it. It's very simple. Okay, instead of going to the expense and options, instead of express payment, you'll select expense entry. So all the conference charges, process it through expense entry. Okay, and then from expense entry, page 34, 35, and 36 on a manual, you'll fill in all those fields that's needed, amount, and the supply. The supply will be parent. Okay, select parent entity Greater Sydney Conference as a supplier to all the conference invoices that you receive from us. And then, after filling in all the details, description, amount, allocation details, and then you need to please click Save. Do not click on Pay. The reason is
it happens because, the way the system provides us reports, when you don't click, you click and save. If you click and pay, it won't appear in our report to clear. So we need to go manually in each church to find the payments. So if you see some payment outstanding you already have done, and say, oh, I already paid this, why is still outstanding here? Just let me know, because sometimes you pay you click and pay instead of save or save and new, and I need to clear. Just if you see something you already paid, please don't pay again. Just tell us, and we're gonna clear the payment. In this case here, we can see payment on account, December. Probably the person paid 45,000 or 45 cents plus more than what was in the invoice. So we have a credit of 45 cents. So in this case, you have to put negative. If it's negative, it's a credit for you. You're gonna guys receive the money for us. So you have to just put the details here. It's like a pamphlets or lessons or whatever you bought on ABC. And you're gonna select the account. Usually ABC is Sabbath school expense. GST is always the total, it's fine. Please attach the invoice, because we need to check the GST, and it's gonna save a lot of time if we put the invoice here. Just click and save or save new, and it will appear in the end of when you do you guys remember when you did the period close? We could see the payments there. So when we close the period, the payment will roll up. It's gonna be done. So if you put a payment today, it will appear in the next period. So you don't need to be rushed, you don't need to pay. It will be done in the next period.
So it's
Just a question. The last statement I received was dated, the last date was the 21st of the 30th. And it's got things there that I'd already sent the payments through, because invoices I've done and sent it through. So how far behind are you in terms of when we get this, that's the end of March.
I will probably enter it on the next period. If you pay in March, but it sometimes will appear in May. But if there's something you paid and still there and you think it's not right, just email me and we can clear the account. Because we are still, when we are new in the system, we just changed it, so there's some stuff we need to fix it. Yes, we are catching up. So if you are you sure you already paid? and like 2 months is still outstanding, just email us and say, look, what's going on? Why is still outstanding? We can have a look and we fix it. Yes, if there's wages or everything. If you paid, don't worry, just tell us and you're gonna clear the. I hope till June we can keep the accounts all clear, all the items really are outstanding, not these like payments or something. We are just adjusting the new system.
If you have seen your statement and you know that you have already paid, yes, kindly email us because the receipting team is allocating those payments. Now when we transfer at the end of the month close, when transfer tithes and offering, we need to identify which amount will go to K-Church to clear off that invoice, and then we'll make sure that it is allocated and applied to the correct invoice.
Wow.
Yes, payroll, they will send you the wages-related invoices and charges. And yeah, you'll be see some of the entries, some of the invoice sent to you in the odd hours.
She was sick during those weeks. Probably she's doing it now.
Any more question? K-Church processing?
But my question is for
Nadel?
Sorry, what was the question?
the question is, our church is getting bush regeneration charges. Our board has taken the decision that we are not paying it. So has Fox Valley. I still keep getting it on my statement, month after month after month.
Yep.
We need to get this sorted out.
We do, and it's the next thing that our team is working on, because there's a number of Wurrunga estate matters that all sort of like I know that the payments don't interlink, but the issues interlink, and as such, we're trying to deal with the most significant matters first, but we do understand that is something that needs to be dealt with.
I mean, I've reconciled my statement.
Yep.
There's a lot of outstanding items that I need clearance on.
Yep. But there's some conversations that need to be had with Fox and Wurrunga, as well as the South Pacific Division, on that one that is ongoing.
Yeah, I know Fox Valley have agreed with us on the bush regeneration charges.
Yep. But we've got to actually get that over the line with the SPD as well.
But that's showing on our statement.
Yes, it is. Yep. At this point in time, it will keep showing on the statements until we get it sorted.
If you see any like ABC invoice and the original and the amount's not the same, maybe you paid with the wrong amount and there's something that you need to do a credit for only the cents, or you need to pay a little bit more if it is not matching, because the amount needs to be the same in the statement, in the invoice, and the payment. Yes, it's not matching. It's gonna have like these ones at 45 cents sitting here. David, GST. Any questions about the K-Church payments?
All right, expenses can be a bit tricky, but like with many things, if we try and keep up to date, then life will be a lot smoother. Now, we are working at the conference in order to catch up, and so a lot of K-Church lateness is on us, but that is something we're looking to address so that we can then make sure that you get statements and invoices in a timely fashion, so you can ideally code them into the period that they actually relate, as opposed to getting them quite late. So that is something we're aware of and something we are addressing. GST. Who likes to pay the government? Oh, it's almost like payroll as well. We pay the government through payroll as well. But GST. So what is GST? It's the amount of money that the tax office needs in order to help run the country. And so when we look at an invoice in order to then make sure that we are paying the correct amount, the ATO has some guidelines on their website, and these are the 7 guidelines. So it does need the words, tax invoice, needs identities, ABNs, dates, etc. in order for an invoice to be a tax invoice for us to then reimburse someone. So if someone scribbles something on a piece of paper, says, reimburse Joe Blow $100 because I spent some money buying flowers for church, what should you do? Ask for a tax invoice. Exactly. Please, we can't claim or pay anything on a scribbled note, but rather we're after a tax invoice. And the more we ask that of people then soon realise that unless we don't get a tax invoice, then we're not going to reimburse them. So they're probably less inclined to just scribble something on a piece of paper. And so when we make sure we uphold these guidelines, it definitely helps in the future because people come forward with tax invoices. So a couple of examples there. On the ATO website, amounts over $1,000 or under. But you'll see that the words are there. There is an ABN. The amount at the bottom should say inclusive of GST, if it is, as the example on the left. The one on the right, maybe GST is shown separately. That's fine. What happens at the conference level when we look through claims in order to reimburse, we have to find that GST amount somewhere. If we can't, then we can't claim it. So a particular watch out may be for people who are reimbursed for things they might buy at Woolies or Coles, because it's a long, and sometimes we take a picture of the top section, but it may not be the section that has the GST information in respect to that purchase. And so therefore when we come and do a check, we then say, oh, hang on, we can't do it. Right, when it's so long. So what do? Couple of ways. One way I've found easy enough, depending on how long it is, chop it in half, or if it's really long, chop it in thirds, put them beside each other, so you're then just scanning all 3 together, so you can see from the very front of the very top of the receipt to the very end. And that's where we can identify what the GST amount is. And in particular when it is Coles or Woolies, not everything has GST when you purchase. And so when entering something, entering that receipt or that invoice into ACAS, you can change the GST amount if you need to. So instead of it being the even 10% calculation, you can change the amount if you need to. But it is careful to look out for a couple of things. This was an example of an invoice that was paid, Blue Star Air Conditioning, to do with, I think, our education system. Looks like a really good invoice. It's got everything on it, the name, the ABN, shows GST, etc. And so life goes on until such time as someone actually checked this invoice. And so there is a website, which I encourage you to shortlist. The bottom right there, it says ABN Lookup. Show of hands if anyone knows that website. ABN Lookup, excellent. A few people do? Yeah, excellent. Can I recommend it's on your shortlist? Because when whoever was checking this entered that ABN, it came up not found. So the next question is, all right, let's Google the name. Let's see if we can find the name. So in Google, type in Blue Star Air Conditioning, and it came up with information that was very different. Different ABN, different phone numbers, different location, everything else. So it turned out this invoice on the left was a forgery. Yeah, that's right. And so we need to be mindful of what we pay to suppliers, etc. And so we need to check. And so ABN lookup is the first point of call. Second, just Google the name. See if information is correct. If it's people that's in your church, then you can ask them directly what's going on. Or if you know them, then you'll have a certain level of confidence that the bank information they're giving you is okay. But if it's a third party, like this case, if it's a third party and if it's a large amount, it's worth double checking before making a payment. Yes, yeah, great point. Phone call to the business as well. That also helped in this instance as well. And so there was notification then back to Blue Star to say, by the way, some people are using your details in a fraudulent manner, so they could try and do something about that as well. So yeah, just be careful and mindful of what invoices we pay. Correct. The work wasn't there and the bank accounts was actually someone's personal bank details.
So in this particular instance, the company had actually not done any work at one of our schools for a very long time. And so this was an in-house job, unfortunately, where the person working within our school system actually manipulated the invoice for a company. Like, we checked the invoice number with the company. They're going, we haven't got any job for you with that invoice number. And so everything about it looked right, but all the important stuff was not right at all, and the funds had actually been deposited into the team member's account.
So you saying you're training us that we want to steal money from the church?
Just be mindful of the fact that at the end of the day, you lie in the bed you make, Pete. Because these are the types of things that we often check from a local church audit perspective. And so and that's the reason for our, not only the reasons for our local church audit. Our local church audits are there to protect you in the jobs that you're doing, in ensuring that what you're doing is best practice. But it also does at times, and unfortunately in my short 3.5 year tenure here at Greater Sydney Conference, I've dealt with 4 misappropriations of funds matters within our churches. They're horrible to deal with. So... Yeah. Yes, that's not quite the way the system currently works now, but yeah. So they're hard to deal with. We have also had a matter that has gone to court as well because of the severity of the situation, and so yeah. Look, it's not, at the end of the day, the funds that we manage, whether it be you as a local church treasurer or as us as conference staff, the funds that we manage are the gifts and donations that people have given out of their free will to our churches. And the issue, and in one of the issues that I've been dealing with, I've had people contact me from their local church because they've known the situation took place, and they've gone, Nadell, we've been sitting on our tithe because we don't want to pay our tithe to the church because of the situation that we do. What do I do? And I've said to them, use e-giving, because that way it helps the local church treasurer. They don't have to receipt it. It goes directly into the account in which it's supposed to go to. And so the issues that we have is when we start manipulating things, you're going to get found out. It's just going to happen. And so when we start manipulating things and we taking risks like that, where it's ending up in our bank account, what we're also doing is we are stripping away the trust that people have in the church as well. And that also comes down to not only the trust that they have in you, but the trust they have in the church, and particularly and that happens with everyone, but it is a significant issue for our younger people as well, because they see it as being really hypocritical. And as such, they're actually going to vote with where they put their money as well. And so it's really, really important to ensure that, firstly, that you're doing the best practice as best as you can, and we're here to help you with that. But secondly, to help protect you, it's important to do the reporting to your local church board so that they're aware of the situations at hand, and then it gets followed up by local church audits and our support team. So Jay's at times comes to me and says, Nadell, we've got a challenge. We've got this church is unable to close their accounts. We're going to have some further discussion. We've got David, who's created some dashboards for us so we can actually see what's happening for all our churches across the conference. And so we're endeavouring as much as possible to help initially you as local church treasurers to catch up to date, so that there is less risk going forward that there are issues at hand. And look, sometimes it's not a misappropriation, it's a funds matter. Like I was talking about the unhealthy churches and the report there, that was partly a misappropriation. That was also partly mismanagement, because the board was making decisions without the right financial information as well. So we're here to help support you, and days like this is here to help support you in the role that you do, because it's a really important role, and we just thank you so much for stepping up and being willing to do these roles.
You mentioned only one of those 4 matters went to court. I assume the other 3 were also reported to the police?
There are variations of the way we have dealt with things, and it comes down to the fact that any misappropriation gets discussed at executive committee level for the conference, and then they determine what is the best process going forward. But yeah, not all do we, like there are some who've actually come to us and said, hey, we've done the wrong thing, we'd now like to make it right. And it'll be dependent on the dollar value, it'll be dependent on the contrite heart, someone who has actually come forward in that place. The hardest to deal with is when there is nothing, like there is no emotional attachment to what's happened at all. It's somewhat the easiest matter to deal with, but it's also a really challenging matter, because people, like the churches, don't want to mistrust people either. And so having to, like for me, sitting in a room and spending an hour and a half trying to negotiate or get the right information out of a person, because I knew it was wrong. I knew what they were saying was wrong. There was a whole lot of things in place that we knew about, and it got to the point where we had to paint them into a corner before they actually said, I've done it. And the evidence was just so clear. So it does depend on severity. It depends on various situations, and we try and work through the church boards and the eldership to be able to resolve some of these. We would prefer not to take them to court, but at the end of the day, you do lie in the bed you make.
GST. So we process GST so that we can claim it back from the ATO. Please email gsufinance@adventist.org.au when a month is ready to claim. Or you may have seen over the last a month or so emails going out about claims outstanding over a longer period of time. So if you've been able to upload invoices for all of 23 or 24, then let us know so that we can then make sure that we claim for the 12 months for that particular year. So yes, what's important, we do check at the invoice level, so make sure the invoice is attached to each expense line. When there are inaccuracies, then it delays that process, and when we can't see the GST amount, it delays, and there are adjustments that then need to be made to the GST amount. At the conference, we put through the BAS statement in order to claim the GST from the ATO on the 20th of each month. So if you let us know as early as you can, before the 20th, i.e. not the 19th, because we are unlikely to then have enough time to go through our checking process. Now, it will be claimed maybe in the following month, but yeah, the most amount of time you can give us, that's handy, so that we can get the ATO money back to you straight away. There is an ATO time limit when it comes to claiming GST, and that number is 4 years. So that's important to know, because if we go past that, then we can't claim from the ATO, and so it means that expense needs to be recorded in your local accounts. So normally when we do an expense, the GST exclusive amount is what ends up in the fund statement for the P&L. And it's on that section at the very bottom that says GST receivable. That's where the cost is for the GST portion. Whereas if we can't claim it, we have to pull that cost from the receivable account back into local budget. So it means an extra expense for your church. So if we can avoid that, then that's what we're trying to do. Yeah. So by all means, getting money from the GST, from the ATO, it's free money. Let's go for it. So when you run the GST report, so it's under the reports menu, it says GST reports. You'll get a report that looks something like that up on screen. We're looking for the Y initially. We're looking for the Y beside each expense line to make sure that there is an invoice. And then internally at the conference, we'll then check to make sure that those details are correct. So when you do receive some money from the conference in respect to the payment of GST, then this is recorded in ACAS via a journal. And so we'll touch on that in 2 seconds. So it's not a usual receipt, because we're not issuing a receipt to someone for a donation, but we capture it as a journal. And so let's have a look at journals. And so there are probably 3 situations that may regularly drive a journal, whereas otherwise we try and avoid journals as much as we can. It's better to do an expense payment or a receipt in order to make a transaction. But when we do receive funds from GST, we'll do a journal. When we transfer between our 2 bank accounts, when we do a funds transfer between maybe your local account and you're moving it into your CMF account so it can get more interest, we record that via a journal. And if there is an unidentified deposit, and we'll touch on that momentarily. So when we have received GST, so when we go to the menu in General Ledger, there is an option there that says Journal Entry. And so what is then similar to many other screens, we select the period that the journal relates to and the date, and we need a description at the top of the journal page. And so that description may indeed be GST refund, and then state the month that it relates to. And I say that because it's then really easy for you as a treasurer to track, okay, for which months have the conference paid me for or not paid me for. Because you have that indicated in the description there. We see then the guidelines. The debit account is your CMF account. So debit represents the account that is receiving the funds. And so in this case, the funds came into your account in CMF. So our debit account, we'll then select our CMF account. We'll type in the amount, $100, $200, whatever it is. There is no tax applicable. and then we'll have a description out the on the very right-hand side there, which is usually the same description as the journal description. So GST refund and then stating the month. So the credit amount or the credit account that we select is then the GST receivable account, because that's where the funds have been when we pay the initial invoice. And so we credit the GST receivable. So we look up that account, and this time under the credit column, we put the same $100 or $200, whatever it was. No tax applicable. So down the bottom, you can attach the GST report if you like. I do that for the fun of it. And I even attach the bank statement so that if someone looks at this entry, oh yes, there was an amount in the bank statement and the evidence of it is the GST report. And so when it comes to reviewing anything for auditors later on, it's all together there in one spot. So yeah, we then just save or save as new in order to then save that journal. And so that represents then the receipt of GST into our bank. So it'll create a bank entry, which we can then match off in our bank reconciliation process. So it creates the ACAS entry for us. The next instance is when we do a bank transfer or funds transfer between, in this example, our local bank account into CMF. So yet again, the receiving bank account is the debit one, is the debit account, which is CMF account. So I select CMF for say $1,000 because that's what we're transferring, and I put a description there as well, transferring from CMF or from local account into CMF. And then the credit account is the amount, is the account that the funds are coming out of, which is, so I select then the local bank account because they're coming out of that account. And so I generate the credit for the exact same amount and put a description. Yet again, often you'll do the journal after the fact, and so maybe you already have a bank statement, so you could attach the bank statement as well. Or board minutes if there was minutes to authorise the transfer. And then we hit save again. And so that's how we do journals. And then the third instance that we looked at is to do with an unidentified deposit. And so if you do have some money in your account that you don't think belongs to you and we're not sure, so we've sent an email through to the conference, so we'll go and have a look, see if it belongs to another church. It's still money received in your bank statement, and so you can't close the bank statement until we do something with it. And so in this case, we do have to create a transaction and put this money into like a holding account, and it's called unidentified deposits, just so that we can then make sure we close our bank reconciliation for the month, and then we'll, when it gets transferred back out to the church it belongs to next month, then we can reverse this journal. And so we will debit our CMF account for, let's call it $750, and we'll credit our unidentified deposits for the same amount. I mean, have our descriptions there, and maybe you have your bank statement there as well, so that it creates the support details for this journal. If we're then looking for a journal, the very next option there, journal search. And so often it's just select the month or the period between and to. So if you did a journal over the last couple of months, that's how I do it. I don't know, pick January, and it will show me everything from January. Then I can find the journals that I've done to see if I'm happy with them, or maybe I need to attach supporting details because I didn't have it at the time. Then you can easily search for your journal in order to then attach the adjustments that you've made. If you then think, oh, hang on, I did a journal the wrong way round. I was transferring into CMF, not out of CMF. Think, oh, no. Well, I can do the journal search in this first stage to find the journal. Then when I select on the journal, it shows me the details of that journal. And like with many other screens, down the bottom right-hand corner there somewhere, you'll see the reverse button. And so by just hitting that reverse, it'll then ask us for a reason. So you can say, oh, journal the wrong way round, something like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, yes. And so you can, so we can then reverse the journal in order to then process it again correctly. And so a journal can be copied, so you can then reverse the numbers, or you can just re-enter it again from scratch, whichever way. But yeah, we go through that search process first, find the journal, and then we hit reverse. So as we touched on, we can't edit things in ACAS, but we can reverse and redo. And so that's the way that we handle it in ACAS. Yes?
There's no copy in that expense payment section?
No.
Yes, if we could set up say a template or something like that, that would be handy. Yes, I don't think there is. Yeah, when it comes to expenses, we have to enter them all individually at the time. Yeah. So journals, if you're unsure which side is a debit or a credit, just drop us an email. We'll help you out with that. Or there is also, we're setting up WhatsApp groups for the different regions in which we all reside. So there'll be a WhatsApp group for the north as well. So you could drop a question in there as well. Say, oh, hang on, I want to do this. Which is the debit? Which is the credit? And other people in the group can help you out with that as well. The counting process. And so we'll just touch on this briefly. But what's really important when it comes to counting at church the next day, I guess, the different activities that we need to do as treasurers. So when people give via e-giving, how much work do we need to do? Nothing. It's great. That's why I like to encourage people onto the e-giving app. I'm sure you do the same. But then the cash and envelopes, that's what we need to take care of. That's what we need to count. And so we need to, or you can track your offerings via a paper system. So there are some outlines on the web, the conference website, which we'll touch on momentarily. But the idea is you need to keep your envelopes for 3 years unless they are scanned. So if they're scanned and recorded against that deposit, then we don't need to keep 10 years worth of envelopes or to keep them until you have an audit at least. And so, yes, a tip of the day, see if you can work on scanning your envelopes. So this count sheet that we see is up on the conference website, and so you can use that. So in the first section, maybe that's the Sabbath School offerings that you can then record information for each. Second box might be local budget. Third might be AY offerings. Fourth might be, or the fifth one there, fourth, tithe envelopes, etc. And so you can write things out on paper if that works for you. I found that there is also an electronic version. And so, the church where I'm at, we have Google Sheets set up. And so I can just open the Google Sheets on my phone, and then we can just type things directly into, and it's in this spreadsheet. It adds it all up for us. And down the left-hand side, it's already got people's names who usually donate via with the envelopes. And so I can then just allocate or type in the numbers for each of the lines there for what that represents. And so I have a count there at the top, which is for all the loose coins, and then a count at the bottom for all the envelopes, and then the grand total. So I know what that should be. So that's the first count when we go through to then make sure each offering balances to something or adds to a particular value. At the top right-hand corner there, you'll see it's got the word count. So when you're pulling then all the cash together in front of you on the table, we then count it a second time. So we then make note, how many $50 notes? And so I type in whatever that is, 15. I count how many 20s there were, 21. And by going down that count and how many coins, etc., that does the calculation for me. And so in that top right-hand corner, we see that red number there. Well, that should be exactly the same as the first count on the left-hand side. And so that's my first check. So we can set up something similar to that and circulate it. Yes, by all means. Yes. Where I am, we actually then do a third count, because when you're going to the bank, do you like to take lots of coins? Do you have lots of bags for coins? Too heavy? You bag them up in their own individual bags? Yeah, and you can do that by all means. I must say I don't. So what I do is I have my own money at home, and so I swap out the coins for notes that I have. So if there's $10 worth of coins, I put in a $10 note, and I take out $10 worth of coins. So I've got lots of coins at home, but then I go... Yes. Yes, and herein lies the challenge or the benefit here of this system. So the third count, you'll notice on the bottom of the screen there, the bottom right, I then do a third count, and this time by replacing the notes with the coins to then make sure I still end up with the exact same amount that I want to. But now I've only got $1, $1, 50 cents, etc. So I've only got a handful of coins that I then need to take to the bank, and so I've only got a small amount. And so when I go to the bank, I have a little pencil case, and so everything fits in my little pencil case. So my coins at home, I then go and visit the bank on my time, and I just feed them through the coin machine, because the coin machine counts them for me. And so I just find that easier. And so, I take care of all the coins at home. Whereas here, the other thing, when we do our counting and we go to the bank, we need to make sure we are secretive or discreet about the way. We don't have a clear envelope so everyone knows we're going to the bank with lots of cash. And so with this, I can even fold it in half with the cash, and it fits into a pocket. So no one has any idea that I have $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever it is on my person. And so I find that really easy. But if you want to take the coins to the bank, by all means, still do that. I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that it's methodical. There is a count for Sabbath school, for main service, for the tithe offerings, and that we do a count 3 times. And then, of course, when you get to the bank, it's the 4th count. And so by then, everything should always be exactly the same figures. And so it's unlikely you'll encounter any sort of issues. And so we then use this template in order to run through our receipts. So my Sabbath school receipt must equal the figure I see here on the screen. My deacon receipt must equal what I see here on the screen. For each person, it must equal what I see here on the screen. And so it's a way for me to make sure that the count equals the receipts, which equals what I print to the person, which equals the deposit. And so it's a way of then making sure that errors don't creep in. It is important, though, that when you receive envelopes, that you write the date on it. Most people probably don't. So it's worth keeping them together and writing the date. Can you open this one for me, please? It's write the date on the tithe envelope. Anyone? And one other thing that is possible as well. Each church could, if you wanted to, actually get a stamp made. And so I think maybe from Timu or overseas, something like that, you can get one made. So this one has the name of the church on it, and then I just spin the dial around to make sure the date's right. And so we stamp the tithe envelopes. But in terms of keeping things together, and whether you put a rubber band around them, but it's important, or a staple or something like that, it's important to date them so you keep them all together, so they're all in one place. And so what I do is, we've got a copy of the offering count, and then right behind it, so where we staple the tithe envelopes together, and we've actually even got the bank deposit slip on that same piece of paper. So all in one place, I have all the information we need in order to track what happened with that offering on a weekly basis. Yeah, that's it. And so it is important to keep the tithe envelopes in a safe place. So sometimes maybe they can occupy a bit of space, but in a little box like this, I could fit 2 or 3 years, because we fit everything together. We fit everything together for each week. We just fold everything together, and then it just goes in a little envelope, little package into the box here. And so we keep everything together, and it doesn't occupy a lot of space. Everything's together, so if the auditors come knocking again to ask for information, yes, that's right, when I can just say, oh, well, I've got a box here for you, and it's no issue. So the idea is that every church should be audited once a year. But yes, we're aiming for every 2 years because of workload, and so once every couple of years, someone should be asking you, "Oh, can you send me through tithe envelopes and bank statements and things like that?"
Just in relation to that, we've got a couple of team members who are doing local church audits, and we've really struggled at times to get treasurers to respond to the letters or emails or phone calls in relation to local church audits. We then also potentially contact the pastor, and there are times where we have had no contact back from local church treasurer or the church pastor, and then my team come and say, "Nadell, I need you to contact." And so it is really important for us to ensure that it is church policy to have the local churches audited. It helps protect you, and so we do ask that you respond promptly to those emails or phone conversations that you do have. I have said to my team, just pick up the phone. If you haven't got answer after 1 or 2 emails, just pick up the phone. But yeah, please, it's important for us to be able to do the audits. When everything is scanned and on ACAS, there is minimal stuff that you actually have to send to the conference. It's more a case of just confirming some components in relation to minutes and things like that. So, but in relation to the actual financial components, when it's all scanned and on ACAS, it makes it really easy for you and for us.
Yes, so I'd encourage you that whatever you can do in terms of scanning information, do that. Makes your life a lot easier in the long run. And then just respect to the deposits at the bank. Within 3 days, so by the Wednesday, which we've touched on, just to make sure that everything's covered on a weekly basis. So any questions about counting or getting to the bank? Yes.
I mean, without stating the obvious, I see the biggest risk for cash is that gap between leaving the deacon's room or the counting room at church and arriving at the bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
In your example of what you do, how do you cover yourself in terms of the $1,440 left the deacon's room and $1,440 got to the bank?
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that $1,600 didn't leave the deacon's room and only $1,440 got to the bank?
Yes, indeed. And so the question is for those online, that how can we safeguard against cash counted, whether that be 1,600, making sure that all of that makes its way to the bank for when we do our receipts. And I guess segregation of duties is one key factor in that, so that we don't have one person doing everything. Ideally, depending on the size of your church, because that does leave an opportunity there, if it is only one person, for funds to go missing. Yeah, correct.
I didn't see any signatures on your paperwork from the council.
And so there's a couple of electronic names that are put there as well. So we write down who was counting, and then who went to the bank, and then which branch we went to. Sorry, in the finer print on the right-hand side. But we also do, whoever does the counting is different from the person who processes ACAS as well. And so, yes, yes. 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 Yeah, that's it. And it's all about transparency. That's key. Yes. And yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, great idea. Written name. Yes. So documentation, is key. So writing names, counting 2 or 3 times is also helpful to make sure that the account is accurate, that as you expect when you then end up at the bank and you don't have an issue over the counter. Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And we've come to the end of our session. We've the next one we'll touch on in relation to budgeting and things like that. But we sort of thought that a few hours was enough for today. We do have a number of resources online. We also have our presentation today that I'll get the team to send out as well. And so we've updated many of our forms and templates and manuals and offering resources, so they are available online now. I have found, I went and did a little bit of a let me go to Sydney Adventist page and see if I can find it. It's really tricky to find if you're just trying to do a search on the Sydney Adventist page. So if you can just go back to the previous one. So we do have, no, we'll make sure that the actual URL for the Treasury resources is provided in that table or in that slide as well. And there is a QR code on that slide to be able to take you to that space. The other is where I've got the team working on moving it so it is easier to search, so that you can find it very, very easily. We have set up some WhatsApp groups because we know that there are some more seasoned treasurers, local church treasurers, as well as some newbies. And so if we'd like to connect people in their regions so that at any point in time, if you're doing something at like 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, you can just send a message out to the group and hopefully somebody will respond. Our team is also part of the administration of those groups, and so when we see them, if we can, one of our team will respond if nobody else has been able to as well. But we're just trying to see if we can make a bit more of a buddy system between our churches. Any other comments or questions? Yes.
When it comes to Sabbath school offering, do we go half comes to the conference and half we keep at the local church?
It depends on the Sabbath school offering that you're actually collecting. If you're collecting for Sabbath school expenses, then that is offerings that stay at a local church. If you're actually collecting for the specific Sabbath school offering, then it needs to go to that particular offering. And so on ACAS, you've got a list of offerings that will say NLO, if it says NLO or non-local offering, that has to fully come to the conference. But anything that's related to your Sabbath school expenses is actually then to be kept for your local church to cover your lesson purchases and things like that. Jaser, did you want to say any more about that? We're just going to show the options for Sabbath school on the screen. So if here where it says NLO, that means non-local offering. And so then it doesn't stay at the local church. Any other questions? Well, yep. If it hasn't been specified as to how your church splits and that's not been shared with your donors, then yes, it has to all go to whatever the offering is. If it's a non-local offering, that's where it has to go. That's correct. Yeah. And some also make that choice. Like every person has to make that choice. So it needs to be clear as you're collecting up the offering. Yeah, there needs to make sure that it's clear. All right. So on that note, thank you. We'll stick around for some individual questions, but on that note, thank you very much for your attendance, particularly on a Sunday. To help with the hunger pains, we've got some Subway and some pizza just outside in the foyer area. Please feel free to partake of that. And so let us just close with prayer. I just want to say thank you to our team as well, because they are working significantly hard to try and ensure that we have better transparency all around. And this is the start of something that we hope will continue significantly long term to ensure that we provide the right resources and support that you as local church treasurers need. And lastly, thank you for the work that you do in your local church, and that is greatly appreciated by all. So thank you very much. Let's just stand and we'll just say a word of prayer. Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for the opportunity of coming together and doing a few hours of training for what is really significant and important in the life of a local church. Lord, we thank you for the providing us with the opportunity, each one individually, of being good stewards of the funds that you have gifted into our care or placed in our care. And so, Lord, whether it be from a personal perspective or whether we are, and most sitting in the room here, are also the stewards of the funds that are provided to a local church as well. And so, Lord, I just thank you for their willingness to be involved from a voluntary perspective in the life and ministry of their church. And we thank you for their ministry in that financial space at the local church level. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity of just being able to have funds that help your ministry. And so, Lord, at the end of the day, everything that we do is for your glory. And may the funds that we manage at local church level or at a conference level, at a union and SPD and GC level, Lord, may we be wise in how we steward that, so it is something that is providing resources so that others can get to know about you. And so we thank you so much for that opportunity. Lord, guide us as we go our separate ways at the moment, and help us to really have an enjoyable rest of Sunday. But we also thank you for the food that has been provided as well, and help it nourish our bodies as we leave this place. Jesus, we always thank you for your gift of hope and hope of your soon return. We can't wait for that day. In your name we pray. Amen.